Breaking the sound barrier. Hi, everybody.
Boom, boom, boom.
Carrie and Mike and Ralph.
Ah, Ralph.
Ralph in Germany. Ralph Nausk.
Oh,
Mike
Ralph.
Kuipers.
Ralph Nausk. Nausk.
I think.
Hello, Ralph.
Carrie Kenner. Lovely. Well done, guys.
I haven't seen Carrie
and
for a
girls.
while.
Yeah, hey, Carrie. How's things hanging there in Charlotte?
Charlotte.
In Kakalaki.
Yes.
Kakalaki,
North Kakalaki.
Yeah, North.
Kakalaki.
Well, Steffi, our Kakalakian, is busy today. She's working and then she's going to a concert tonight with a friend, so she's not going to be with us. And Camacho is a busy man. He's working hard and he's got family stuff happening. Rick said he might drop in, but he was having some mechanical issues with his plane, so we're not sure if it's going to happen.
There's something about the spark plugs need to be replaced or something.
Exactly. Nick's looking very ruddy. Is he not looking very ruddy to you?
Yeah. Need to do
Ruddy
something with
Nick.
your color. Hello, Mr.
Oh my God,
Kuipers.
what's happened to it?
How are you doing, sir?
What's happened to that?
I
What's going
take
on?
this sip of
Help.
sparkling water for
Oh, yeah, you're drinking that nice stuff that you... Jordan Decker, hello.
Hello, Jordan. Decker, that sounds like a German name.
Ooh, that's
doesn't
better,
it?
Nick.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there.
Get all messed up.
Don't mess up.
I like Decker because I always think of Eindecker, the one-wing monoplane that German, they called it an Eindecker.
I think of Black and Decker.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that the way they spell
Mazouz,
Black?
there's
No,
Dr.
Decker is
Mazouz Kareem. Hello.
D-E-C-K-E-R, I think is what Black and Decker is, right? Yeah.
Yes, he's saying his is Dutch.
Decker
'Cause
is
he-
German.
Yes, he's
Oh, Dutch.
Dekker.
Oh,
He's
oh, I
Dutch
see.
and Decker is German.
I'm
Got
sorry,
it.
I
Thanks,
had
Jordan.
something covering up that
Neil
part of my
Lanwarn,
screen.
main man Micah.
Hey, Micah
Hi, guys.
and Mr. Neil Lanwarn. At work, so only paying 50% attention. Well, that's all we do here.
So you're only going to get 25%. If you're only
Yeah.
playing 50%, you're only going to get 25%.
Yeah, it's going to be a...
It's going to be a big disappointment to you there.
And that's what we do best. Big disappointment.
Oh, now Micah's saying he's complaining about your Reds there, Nick.
Have I gone red again?
Yeah, so he says a little bit, but doesn't
Well,
look.
trouble is, actually, I can fix this probably because I can unplug that.
Oh, Decker means roofer. Oh, that's interesting, Jordan. I love thinking of those names in English that were professions, like plumber, like Steffi. I guess Steffi's ancestors were plumbers one day at a time. Farmer, fisher, all those things.
Yep.
And then there's Jeff Nielsen.
Neil's son.
Yeah, Neil's son.
Because you used to be a kneeler. Is that right? You did a lot of kneeling?
No. I don't think so. I do now.
Well, are you saying Neil Lanwarn was your father? Interesting.
Well, I wasn't really going to mention that. I think we should go to a different subject now.
Good idea.
Okay, I need to turn my little...
Oh, I guess I better get my screen ready to share and all that stuff. I've sort of
Oh, yeah, I should
forgotten
do
what
the
to
same.
do. I'm kind of out
I
of
should do the
practice here a
same
bit.
thing.
A little out of practice.
Yep.
Okay, so you guys are finished in Keynote, yeah? Yes?
Yes. I've
I
got
don't think I've even been in there today.
Coffee Fun Classic, but no
Yep.
new patron.
Okay. All right, so now I'm going to present.
And I do have
Screen.
2 videos for that first news item. The,
Okay, good.
ATR.
Good.
And what else was I going to tell you
I don't know.
about?
How's that? Less red?
Oh, Let me look. Yeah, looking good. The videos with Tom Seagraves,
Yes, sir.
if we get that far, I'm not going to play because they were like 45
Yes.
minutes long.
Yeah,
so
no.
it was-
Just no. I
It was
understand.
taken. Well, I mean, not only I obviously wouldn't play the whole thing. I was thinking about playing like a little bit of on the front end of at least one of them, but it was taking so long to download. So I'm a little concerned why it was taking so long to download these things from my location here. So is everything okay? Am I looking okay? Sounding okay?
You look good. You look good. You sound good.
Well, a bit
Okay.
pasty faced, but apart from that, you're fine.
I haven't got my Ethernet connection. Should I do it? Are you
Oh.
hearing me okay?
Yeah. So far, I haven't heard any skips.
Okay.
Or
No,
anything.
you're good. You're in
Okay.
the bottom bit of your screen, but apart from that, you're good.
Yeah,
That's
Yeah.
a bit better.
Reduce the
Yes,
headroom,
That's
yeah.
much better. There you
that's good.
Max headspace? Max
go.
headroom?
Max headroom.
No, you,
Max
no, you don't want max headroom. You want-
No, I'm
Hey,
Max.
headspace.
No, I'm Max head case.
Okay, excellent.
There you go.
Right, nearly finished supper.
let's
Have you
see,
got
did
your recorder on, Jeffrey?
Not yet. Ooh.
Okay.
Well, I got a lot of stuff to do still. What have I been doing? Just playing around here or something.
Yeah, I'm picking your nose. Can you upload a couple of plain trails while you're at it for me?
Okay. Oh yeah. Well, how about? Am I already 2 behind? I thought I'm only
I
1
don't know.
behind. I think I'm
need
one.
to
I
check.
did the last episode. Well, yeah, it was the last show we did one, right?
We did.
Yeah,
Yeah. So I
Guinea Pig Club.
neglected to upload that one. Sorry.
that's right. It probably means I'm one to do.
Darn it. Where do you put that? It's just always in the way. There we go. Present. Share screen. Window. There we go. Share. Okay, so now I'm ready with that.
Oh, that's a good one.
What else? I need to get Reaper up and running.
As in the Grim Reaper?
Yep. Actually, the DAW Reaper.
Like this guy? Yeah, there he is. Jeff, the Reaper man.
Yeah. Now we got the
Yeah.
Reaper up and running. I see it.
Yeah, I love it.
We go here and do loop back to Reaper. Okay. Okay.
Ooh,
Somebody say
sorry,
something
I got
there?
yawns.
Okay, perfect. And if you'll just do a quick Unity so I can see I'm getting
yep,
a signal from there.
Yes, I will.
All right, I'm seeing signal. Thank you. Okay.
I'm back.
Thank you. Welcome back. Welcome back.
You're listening to the Airline Pilot Guy Show.
Okay, got signal there, so I'm going to hit record.
Very
I'm
good.
recording.
You got your countdown thing?
Not yet.
Okay.
See, when I do that, then I can't see anybody on the chat. Oh, it looks like I have a new neighbor.
Oh,
She's
You better put your
dialing
clothes back
something.
on then.
Dialing something on her phone. Uh-oh. She's reporting me already.
uh-oh.
Well, you should put your trousers on at least.
Okay. Now, I didn't think she could see from my waist down, but apparently.
Well, luckily
Apparently
we
she
can't,
can.
which is great.
Yeah, we don't want to know.
Yeah. I got to adjust something here. And I'm not talking about my crotch.
Well, it's the way you're sitting. Yes.
He's sitting pretty.
I need to...
Well, that's one word you could use.
Wow. I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt.
No, you're
Be
a
nice.
very generous lady.
Be nice, children.
Yes, yes, Dad.
Play nice.
Okay. Oh, and I have to get Evernote up. So let me close some of these tabs. Take a quick look at the weather. Oh, doesn't look like any weather coming yet, which is good.
I think we've got some coming here, but
She'll be coming around the mountain when she comes.
Okay.
she'll be coming round the mountain when she comes. Oh, yeah. There's a bunch over Michigan that's heading this way.
Okay.
She'll be coming round the mountain. She'll be coming round the mountain. She'll be coming round the mountain.
Okay, so I guess Rick is not going to be here.
No, I haven't heard a
Singing
peep.
I will if you will, so will I.
And so it's gonna
Singing
be
I will if you will, so
so
will
will
I. Singing I will if you will, I will if you will,
Is anybody else
I
hearing that
will if
really
you will.
awful noise?
so will I.
So funny.
It's always funny, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh wait, never mind. It's gone away now. So
Oh, it has. It stopped.
She has got a
It's back.
handsome
There it is again.
country estate.
dang it.
She has got a handsome country estate. She has got a handsome can't say that anymore. Got a handsome country estate.
All right, let's do this show now.
All right. So turning the air conditioning off. Hopefully it won't get too blasted hot in here.
You
So,
can take your
I
shirt
would've-
off.
No, you really don't want me to do that. Thanks. So is that better? The sound quality?
I can't hear anything.
yes,
That's
absolutely.
good.
Yes.
Yep.
No,
Yes.
you know what I need to do? I should have
In fact,
done.
it's sounding great,
Which
Jeff.
I
Aren't
haven't
you,
done
Mike?
before.
Love it.
I
I
need
guess
to.
video's top tier too.
Okay, well,
Well,
hopefully it
yeah,
doesn't
that went
go all
last
to
time.
you know where
Yeah.
once we
hell?
start.
As soon as we go
That's
live, it's going to go
inputs.
to a bag of something else.
System noise
Bag of poop.
assist.
Yep.
Noise assist is on. Okay, back to this.
Yeah, Mike Kuipers is thumbs up with the audio.
Good man. We
Yay.
like that.
Okay. Still okay? The
Yeah.
sound? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
All right. And so I have the script up. And let me make sure I'm ready to go with the video for item 1.
Yep.
And I've selected it. Okay. All righty. I guess we should go ahead and do this thing.
Let's do it.
All right. Take it away, Roger.
You're
No.
listening to the
No,
Headline
no, 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 no. You got to do a countdown first.
Oh, yeah.
Good job. Someone's on
I'm
the
just-
ball.
Just testing you. See if you noticed. I was going back. I was reverting to the old way.
You were.
Okay, here we go.
You're listening to the Airline Pilot Guy Show.
The view from our side of the cockpit door.
WAPG. It's the Airline Pilot Guy.
Airline Pilot Guy, episode 627.
Yeah, he's up in the sky. It's the Airline Pilot Guy.
Hello, you're listening to the Airline Pilot Guy Show, the view from our side of the cockpit door. With your host, Captain Jeff, broadcasting live from the APG Road Vessel Studio. Today's show is recorded on the 16th of August, 2024.
Yeah, he's up in the sky. It's the Airline Pilot Guy. Get your light and he's flying by. With the Airline Pilot Guy.
In today's episode, a crash kills all 61 people on board a flight in Brazil. And an Australian soccer team is forced to fly without working toilets. Also ahead, more news and your feedback. So get all settled in. Tray tables and seat backs in the upright and locked positions. Electronic devices powered on. I'm Radio Roger, and Flight 627 is ready for pushback.
Thank you, Radio Roger. He's an award-winning TV and radio reporter currently at the #1 all-news station in the nation, 1010 Wins on 92.3 FM in New York City. Welcome to the Airline Pilot Guy Show. It's an aviation podcast covering the latest in aviation news and answering your great feedback. I'm Captain Jeff, a former U.S. Air Force pilot, retired captain for Delta Airlines. And joining us from his studio,
in Hartford, Hereford, and Hampshire.
Professional photographer, former RAF, RAAF fighter pilot, retired Airbus A330, A340 captain for Virgin Atlantic Airways. It's Captain Nick.
Hi there, Jeff. Lovely to be back on the show. It's going to be a great evening. And did you know that 627, our show number, is also the manufacturer's serial number of one of the latest A350s to come off the production line, and it is now flying for Air France. Fox Whiskey Zulu November Echo. Fox Wisney. There you go. What can I say?
Fascinating.
That's a lot of A350s out there.
Yeah, I know they've got over 1,300 on order, or have been ordered.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, good for Airbus. All right. Well, you know what? You may have heard the voice there expressing amazement from that 627 trivia. And, of course, she's in her studio in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Retired financier and aviation enthusiast, spreadsheet master, and our producer. It's the lovely Liz Piper.
Here I am. Hi, guys. Hi, everybody.
Great to see you,
Hi,
Liz.
Liz. Bye, Liz.
Bye, guys. Have a good show.
Get out of here. Get out of here.
Yeah, thanks.
All right. It's now time for us to do some aviation news.
Stand by for news.
All right, we're going to start off with this tragic. Oh, excuse me. It's tragic.
Did you just break wind?
Well, it just sounded like it, but that was actually my microphone cord rubbing against. As far as you know,
Yeah.
that's my microphone cord rubbing against my microphone stand. Sorry about that. And Liz, a little soft on the volume. I need to do something on my end to bump up the volume. Yeah, because I could hear you were saying something, so I could tell you were talking to me on Unity. But say something again, Liz. Okay. No, it's more on my end of things, I think. Okay, so I can hear you now. Okay. Well, let's start off with this tragic accident in Brazil. This from the aviationherald.com. A Vopass Linhas ATR 72 212 Alpha, registration Papa Sierra Victor Papa Bravo, performing flight 2283 from Cascavel in Brazil to Sao Paulo Guarulhos. Don't know. Oh, yeah. Wait, I got that one right, I'm sure. All right. With 58
Pretty
passengers
easy
and
with
4
that bell, aren't you?
Oh, yeah, very liberal with it. Hey, it's my show. If that's the way I pronounce things, well, darn it, that's the way I do it. Okay. Had 58 passengers and 4 crew. Was in the initial approach to Sao Paulo, Guarulhos. At flight level 170 when the aircraft spun out of control and crashed into a residential area in Vila Santa Fe, Vinhedo, in Brazil, about 7 nautical miles southeast of Viracopos Airport and about 40 nautical miles northwest of Guarulhos Airport at about 13:22 local time. The aircraft broke into several parts, burst into flames. All occupants perished in the crash. No residential houses were hit. There were no injuries on the ground, which I think is kind of a minor miracle.
Yeah, fantastic luck.
Local authorities reported, although the aircraft crashed near residences with people inside, no people on the ground have been injured. Let's see, FAB Brazil, ATC provider, reported that the flight was normal until 1620 Z. However, thereafter, there was no more communication from the aircraft and the crew did not respond to calls. There was no emergency call or pilot report of adverse weather conditions. Radar contact was lost at 1622 Zulu. Brazil's SANIPA, I think their investigatory agency, have opened an investigation. They later announced that they have recovered both the flight data and cockpit voice recorder. The black boxes are being sent to Brasilia, where they will be read out and analyzed. In a press conference, the regulatory agency confirmed that the aircraft had not issued an emergency call. Let's see. Emergency services reported they have completed their tasks at the crash site. All bodies have been recovered. The engines and the tail have been removed for examinations, and the wreckage site has been handed to SANIPA for further removal and analysis of the wreckage. I do have some video that we'll play here in a second. Let's see. On the 12th, well, let's do that. Let's just play the video of the cell phone video of the airplane kind of falling out of the sky in a flat spin. Do you have that up in the... Okay, thanks. And here's another one, a little bit longer.
Caralho, rapaziada, o avião caindo, que porra é essa, viado?
So, sounds like both engines are running.
Caralho!
Clearly, just basically almost falling directly down, vertically, although in a very flat attitude.
Caralho, que porra é essa, viado?
I'm not sure what he's saying. Hopefully it's not bad stuff. Doesn't sound like he's swearing. Anyway, so that was pretty hard to watch, actually, seeing this airplane full of passengers, not full of passengers, but a lot of passengers on board, just basically in a flat spin, going to their deaths. And we'll talk a little bit more here. I'm going to read on a little bit more and maybe get an idea of what some people are thinking, perhaps, initially about what may have happened. On August 12th, 2024, Brazilian media reported that the aircraft had been in trouble ever since March 11th of this year, when it suffered a tail strike, receiving structural damage. After its return to service 4 months later, 1 month prior to the crash, passengers complained about the air conditioning system not working, citing incredible heat on board. I'm not sure exactly if those two items directly relate to what happened in this accident, but I'm sure that they're going to be investigating everything, and will rule out those things if they don't deem them important to what happened here. But at the time of the crash, this is kind of significant, I think. Significant weather information, or SIGMETs, were issued for severe icing was forecast in the region that they had just flown through right before the crash. Okay, well, Liz is showing us the map where the graphic overlay showing where that severe icing was forecast, and I believe that was the last portion of their flight before it started dropping almost straight down, as I said, in what appears to be a flat spin. So Yeah, and I think that we got some information from one of the piloting forums. I think this was from Liz. Correct me if I'm wrong. Was this from the um, yeah, the checklist? Okay. Okay. So from Twitter or X, somebody posted this, said a friend of his flies the ATR 72, sent him this checklist for severe icing. Quote, first 4 items are memory. If you enter severe icing, you have 10 seconds to react. If you don't act, you'll crash. The aircraft has little performance in these kind of conditions. And honestly, Jeff speaking here, severe icing is something that no airliner out there wants to experience for any amount of time. I mean, the least amount of time possible. I mean, sure, Nick, in your experience flying the A330 and the A340, anytime you were in a condition of severe icing, and that means like it's just everything is icing up so quickly your anti-icing systems can't overcome the ice buildup, and we know that ice being built up on the airfoils of the aircraft, which is creating the lift to keep the thing up in the air, you so alter the shape of the airfoils that they no longer can provide enough lift to keep this very heavy vehicle in air up.
Absolutely right, Jeff. And it's not just the change in shape that reduces the efficiency of the wings. The ice can also interfere with the control surfaces, jamming them, making it harder to control the aircraft. They also add weight to the aircraft, which increases the stalling speed, and all these factors can, add together to give you a severe problem. So, yes, commercial aircraft that carry passengers have anti-icing equipment. But when you're in very severe icing, and that really applies to any severe weather condition that you might encounter, you don't hang about in there. I don't know quite where this gentleman got his 10 seconds from, but you definitely don't want to linger any longer than absolutely necessary in any severe conditions. So severe icing is one of those. And it's very important, as you can see from that checklist, that they immediately increase their minimum speed by 30 knots to give that wing a better chance of producing enough lift to keep them flying. In the meantime, of course, you're going to put all your anti-icing equipment on and you're going to try and exit that area. Now, if they had a forecast area that was ahead of them and they've just entered it and now it's severe icing, that basically means a 180-degree turn to get back where you came from, where that icing wasn't so bad, while you have to think about your next actions. Are we going to try and penetrate this, or are we going to go round it, or are we going to divert, or whatever? I mean, isn't the assumption is that it could have been icing that caused the crash, and certainly in order to get into a spin you have to have stalled the wings. So either the speed is too low or the stalling speed will have increased to the point where you enter that condition of having stalled the wings. It's quite possible that you can enter a spin subsequently. Or there is another possible issue with the aircraft, which I'm sure you're going to cover, concerning the tail section.
Or you can cover it.
Okay. Well, they previously had a tail strike.
Yeah.
And the aircraft had been quite severely damaged. And I did notice that they took away the tail section of the wreckage very early on in the investigation to examine it, to see whether that tail strike, the earlier damage, had caused any problems that might have led them to lose control of the aircraft. And I'm kind of a little suspicious about that, because The APU, and I'm not an ATR pilot, we never was, so I don't know much about it. The APU is generally in the tail of the airplane, and the air conditioning system wasn't working very well. Now, of course, the APU being in the tail might, if the tail was damaged, might not be providing all the services that it could provide, including air conditioning. So I'm just wondering if that was a factor. But we, at the moment, it's very early in the investigation. Yeah.
Yeah, it could be that the reason that both of those items, the tail strike and the damage related to it, and also the issue with the air conditioning, may have something contributory to this accident. Main Man Micah in our audience says the ATR is notorious for icing problems, and in fact was grounded for some of the issues with it back in the 1990s. Yeah, I believe it was an ATR holding south of Chicago, somewhere over Indiana, I believe. That may have been what he is referring to back in the 90s, where they ended up, it was on autopilot, and they were in icing conditions, and there was a slow, insidious buildup of icing on the wings. The autopilot was trying to compensate for it, and then finally, as the autopilots do, they finally just say, I've done everything I can. I can't maintain the altitude or whatever you're asking me to do, so, I'm just going to stop working. I'm going to click off, and you have the airplane. And in a lot of cases, it's a very startling thing to happen, and sometimes the airplane can immediately go out of control, and you have to be very, very quick in your actions to recover the aircraft, and maybe in some cases it's not recoverable. So October of 1994, an American Eagle flight, Indianapolis to Chicago, and over Roselawn, Indiana. Yep, Carrie in our audience said that, it was over Roselawn. Yeah, so that, definitely, I mean, all airplanes to some extent or another, have risks associated with especially severe icing conditions. And I think, I'm not sure, I am not an ATR pilot, or never have been as well, Captain Nick, but I think that airplane's de-icing, I'm not sure if you call it anti-icing, but I think they have boots, inflatable boots on the leading edges of the wings. I don't think they have a heated wing or heated leading edge like a lot of the jets do. But I could be wrong about that. Anyway, and as I just wanted to add to what Captain Nick was saying, like if you get into those kind of conditions, an immediate 180 to get back out of it, or another way to get out of icing conditions, because usually it's a rather thin layer of those severe conditions where if you descend even a couple of thousand feet, that's usually enough to get out of those conditions. But I don't know if they were attempting to do that or not, but we'll find all out about that in the accident investigation.
I tell you what is really dramatic with that video, and it's something that you often hear quoted, the rate of descent that will quickly build up when you're in a spin. But to see an aircraft lose that amount of altitude in that length of time, it really brings it home just how fast the airplane was descending and how little time the crew had to initiate a recovery in the hope that they might save themselves. But it really was just plummeting towards the ground.
It really was. And I'm not sure if it's true for all transport category aircraft, but I believe most transport category aircraft, maybe, something close to 99%. Once you're in a spin, there's usually no way to recover from it. There's no way to get out of it. Just the aerodynamics, the way that these airliners are built. But, I could be wrong about the ATR. Again, I don't know anything about the aerodynamics related to that kind of form factor. So,
Well, it's one thing that is not required as part of the certification. You're not required to spin your airliner. You are required to stall it, but you're not required to spin it. So, the only spin training we as airline pilots will be in our very initial training in a light aerobatic, usually single-engine aircraft, when we will learn, how to spin a Cessna 150 or something. And, to try and relate that 15 years later in your career to what your ATR is doing is very hard. I mean, we all know basically how to get out of a spin. You've got to unstall the wings, you've got to stop the rotation, and then you've got to recover from the subsequent dive. But to use those very early flying lessons and bring it back to the forefront of your mind when you're in that kind of a situation is very hard.
or if you happen to be a former U.S. Air Force T-37 instructor pilot,
Yeah.
and you have done literally hundreds, if not thousands, of spins during however many years that you've been instructing students, and you're probably more likely maybe to be able to get something out of a spin if it's even possible. But I remember when I was a student, I absolutely hated going on the rides and practicing spin recoveries. And then when I became an instructor in it, I ended up doing them so often that it didn't even whatever, it's another spin.
Yeah, it's funny you should mention that, because as a student, I hated doing them unless there was an instructor in the airplane, because then I felt comfortable that if I mishandled the recovery, I've got this very capable bloke who's going to help me out. But of course, as an instructor, you are the bloke that has to be that person who's now going to save the situation if your student makes a mistake. So, and once you've done them, 5, 10, 15, 20 times, and you think, actually, this aircraft is very easy to recover, there's no problem. But of course, every airplane's different, and every spin can be different, because a conventional spin can turn into a flat spin, even an inverted spin. And the recovery can be complicated, because you've got to be very specific about how you recover the airplane. If you don't use the right actions, it won't come out. And if you're clumsy about it, you can put it back into a spin before you know what's happening. So, it's one of those things that requires constant practice and some skill to be able to do.
Absolutely. It would make your head spin. Yeah, you're right, Liz.
Liz just tried to make a joke.
It was a good attempt. Yeah. I don't know if you can hear the drill in the background. I don't know what the people are doing with their.
Oh, is a dentist moved in next door?
It's not that kind of a high pitched. It's a lower frequency drill, but I think it has something to do with
luckily, your beautiful microphone is excluding that.
I'm sorry. Both of you were talking at the same time, and I couldn't hear either of you. I'm sure you were both very funny, though. Okay.
I was complimenting your microphone. We can't hear a thing.
Oh, okay, good.
Not even you.
Oh, well. Yeah. Oh, they're being very boring. I get it.
God.
Okay.
Oh, please.
Let's move on to the next news item, please. All right. From the Aviation Herald as well. A West Atlantic Boeing 737-400 registration Golf Juliet Mike Charlie Victor performing flight 2876 from East Midlands to Aberdeen in Scotland with two crew was departing from East Midlands runway 9 when the tail contacted the runway surface. The aircraft continued the flight, climbed to flight level 240, and landed on Aberdeen's runway 34 about 45 minutes after departure. This happened on December 1st, 2023. On August 8th, 2024, the AAIB released their final bulletin concluding the probable causes of the serious incident were as follows. The crew used incorrect loading figures to calculate the aircraft performance at departure. The aircraft was approximately 10 tons heavier than anticipated. 10 tons.
God, I nearly spat my beer out.
No, that's what, roughly in U.S. measure, 20,000 pounds. I don't know what it would be in kilograms, but probably something close to 10.
10 metric tons.
10 metric tons, yeah. Anyway, and the pilot flying therefore commenced the takeoff rotation 15 knots too slow. Due to the lower speed, the wing did not develop sufficient lift for the aircraft to take off as expected, and the tail struck the ground. Let's see. The crew used the data from a load sheet from a previous flight to calculate the takeoff performance figures for the aircraft. This led to the takeoff performance being calculated for a mass 10,082 kilograms less than the actual mass of the aircraft at departure. Therefore, the commander, as pilot flying, commenced the takeoff rotation at 123 knots, as opposed to the 139 knots required for the aircraft's actual mass. The Flight Crew Training Manual advises that pilots should make a smooth, continuous rotation at V rotate towards a pitch attitude of 15 degrees nose up. The stabilizer trim setting was more nose up than for the correct mass, resulting in pitch control forces being lighter than anticipated by the pilot flying, possibly contributing to the pitch rate peaking at 5 degrees per second just prior to the tail striking the ground. And I think a normal rotation, Nick, probably in your airplane was very similar, like 3 degrees per second, I think is a normal kind of rotation
That's exactly
rate.
right. Yep.
Okay. As the aircraft rotated, the airspeed was too low to generate sufficient lift for the actual mass of the aircraft. The aircraft did not lift off at the point in the rotation anticipated by the crew, but instead lifted off as the pilot flying continued the rotation. The aircraft tail struck the ground, damaging the tail skid and drainage mast. The commander recalled feeling a small bump during the takeoff, but saw no other abnormal indications. Again, this is a cargo flight, no passengers, no flight attendants.
Right. No one in the back galley to start screaming at them.
Exactly. Once the after takeoff checklist was complete, the crew discussed the possibility of a tail strike or a load shift as being the cause of the bump. The commander was confident that the rotation and liftoff had been normal, with no abnormal indications or flight parameters he considered liable to cause a tail strike.
What abnormal indications was he expecting from a tail strike? Do they have a tail strike indicator? A wear strip or something? I don't think they do. So I'm just wondering what he was expecting. A small bump might be all you get. I mean...
And he also, I think there was some indications there because he said that the controls felt lighter when less effort was required to rotate the aircraft, right? Or was that just something they were saying was something that happened?
No, I think that's exactly right. Because they had a trim setting for their expected weight, which was 10 tons lighter, that trim setting would have probably given him a lighter than normal feel on the controls.
Yeah. So I it's so easy to second guess these things, and especially now for both Nick and I, we're both retired, so
we're bulletproof now.
We can't say anything wrong, really.
No, we cannot.
But thanks, Liz.
It's just dragging us back down to reality. Yes, thank you, Liz.
Especially after you've been flying a bit on a certain type, you kind of get a feel for what you should be feeling, what kind of feedback you're going to get from whatever input that you put into the flight controls. You expect a certain outcome, and if things don't feel quite right, that's something that should be, giving you pause for thought, like why does this feel different than it should, or what's going on here? I'm thinking, just of course hypothetically, and doing the Monday morning quarterbacking. But if for some reason during the rotation the airplane just didn't feel like it really was ready to fly yet, I would just instinctively, I think, back off on the rotation rate and lower the nose to try to generate more speed and then more lift, and then maybe gradually start rotating again being very careful, not to over rotate and strike the tail. But again, it's so easy for me to say that now because I am no longer doing it for a living. I haul boxes. In our live audience says it does have a tail skid, but you'd only see it scratched or depressed on the next walk around. Yeah, I don't think there are some airplanes that do have like active real-time systems that will let you know.
The 330 I flew had a tail strike indicator, so it had a rub strip, and if you touch that on the runway during takeoff, it used to bring up a warning, so that you knew you'd done it.
And this is a little older technology, and I've never flown an airplane that had that kind of technology where it would, let you know if you did actually strike or hit the skid strip or whatever you call it. Anyway.
Yeah.
So let's continue. They had a tail strike, and so he's suspecting it's either a tail strike or some kind of a load shift because, again, this is a cargo aircraft, configured aircraft. Let's see. It said the captain's workload was high due to the inexperience of the co-pilot. So with the aircraft handling normally, the commander decided to continue the planned departure, as this also kept the deck angle stable in accordance with the load shift guidance in the OMB. What would that be? The Operation Manual something? I don't know what OMB stands for. Continuing the planned departure and climb also avoided the increased workload of an immediate diversion. That's true. Okay. In the cruise at flight level 240 with the workload much reduced, the commander revisited the symptoms. That's a good thing. Always good to revisit things. After the co-pilot had visually checked the cargo, with the suggestion of a load shift excluded, the commander decided to action the tail strike QRH procedure out of an abundance of caution. Concerned about exposing the co-pilot to the very unusual task of depressurizing the aircraft at high altitude, the commander decided to first descend and then complete the QRH actions. And I think that was probably a good idea. Sufficient fuel remained to carry on to the destination, which, in considering the workload the commander decided to do, the sector was short, and so comparatively little time would have been saved by diverting. The aircraft then flew an uneventful approach to Aberdeen, and after landing was checked by the commander, and the damage was identified. The crew reviewed their paperwork and realized that the load sheet signed by the commander was not the one they had used for calculating takeoff performance.
Yeah, I
Whoopsies.
know. That's a pretty damning paragraph there. I agree to a certain extent. If you've got a young first officer without a lot of experience, straight out of training, you're not going to get the support from him that you would from a more experienced one. So doing a diversion, etc., might be a problem. On the other hand, the guy is a qualified first officer, so he should be capable of doing everything that his captain needs of him. So I'm not 100% okay with that. However, it was a short sector and they had descended, so they thought that was okay, and I'm quite happy to go along with that. I would say that's your decision, mate. That's fine. And they did the tail strike QRH. But out of an abundance of caution, well, okay, you can put that in if you want. I think it was just, here we go. It's probably a tail strike. Let's do it. I don't think there's an abundance of caution there, but there you go. And I think from there on, the crew did a good thing. But it's that, we picked up the wrong piece of paperwork and entered the numbers from a different flight into our box. And I'm going, wow, that is, you see, there are certain things you do on a preparation of an aircraft that are absolutely safety critical. And this is one of them. And if you pick up a piece of paper to enter numbers, and it's a bit like a policeman, following the chain of custody on an item that they are using for evidence. If you're not absolutely sure that there's no way that piece of paper could have been switched with a different one, then you check every detail on it. You check the aircraft registration, you check the date and time, you check everything you need to confirm that this is the right piece of paper. And it's just normal practice. It's just a normal procedure for a crew to do that. And you might even get both of you to do it. Because, you know, if one of you picks up the wrong piece of paper, there's nothing for the first officer who might be entering the numbers. He can't confirm that you've got the right numbers unless he has the piece of paper in his hand as well. So, you know, it's just, I just wring my hands sometimes going, this is so easily avoided with just a little more care and attention.
Oh, iHall Boxes in our live audience says Operations Manual Part B is what OMB stands for.
Thanks, Mr. Boxes. Good job.
Yeah, he's a font of aviation knowledge. And we do appreciate you. And we appreciate all of you in our live audience. And by the way, if you're listening to this audio-only podcast and are curious about how the sausage is made, so to speak, and you want to hang out with these fine people in our live audience,
some of them are fine.
Well, some, you know, mostly. Sign up for notifications that our producer Liz puts out, indicating when we plan on doing our live show recording. And you can look on the calendar. You can you can follow us on at APG Crew on X and Facebook, Airline Pilot Guy. So we'd love to have you here with us. And I think that the live chat, the live audience will be mostly behaved, I think, for if you're a newcomer.
They're very welcoming. They really are. Once you've been there a while, you can expect some comments to fly, but only when they know you and love you.
Exactly. Just to revisit what you were saying and what I was saying about the depressurization thing, I think it really also kind of depends on, well, not only on the level of experience that the new pilot may have or may not have, but also I think it really depends on the actual airplane that you're flying, because some of these airplanes, it gets a little tricky. And I have experience with this on the Mad Dog, the McDonnell Douglas MD-88 series aircraft, and trying to do manual pressurization or depressurization, and it gets kind of tricky and confusing very, very quickly. So that's why I kind of thought, well, that was probably a good idea. But you might be in an airplane that manual pressurization or depressurization procedures are pretty straightforward, and in that case, then, as you said, Captain Nick, you know, you should expect these people to know how to do it. They've been trained to do it, supposedly, and you just hope that they're ready to go when you're out there on the line.
Yeah, I agree. But even on the Airbuses that I flew, which, you know, they're older technology Airbuses now, doing manual depressurization for a landing was a real trick. You had to get a real feel for how long to move those switches, what direction to move them in, because the labeling was not as logical as you might think. And you really got to get it straight in your head which way you're moving those switches and for how long, and when you're actually physically moving the outflow valves in order to change the amount of air that's exiting the aircraft in order to depressurize it. It's a delayed reaction. So you move the valves a little bit and you sit and wait and watch the cabin start to lower and the cabin rate of climb and descent start to change, and you give it a little while. You've got to know how long that is likely to be before you need to tweak that selection. And you really do have to concentrate on it. It almost takes one pilot out of the loop. He can't do much else other than just control this. So from that point of view, I think the guy made probably a sensible decision there.
Main Man Micah in our audience says, I thought you just popped the window open. well,
yeah.
Not quite that easy.
I thought the guy that's a qualified air marshal just took his gun out and put a bullet hole in the window. That was the approved method.
That'll be a more controlled
absolutely.
depressurization. Yeah. Well, you know, in my experience, and this happened to me once, And the first officer was just basically doing everything the opposite of what he was supposed to be doing. And my ears were going crazy, and I'm just imagining, blood just pouring out of people's ears in the back. And I finally just got to the point where I said, "You have the airplane. I'll do the pressurization stuff," because it was like horrible. It was that's why and anytime I get into an airplane, usually airplanes have at least 2 auto pressurization controllers, one there for the primary, one for the backup. Anytime I got into one where one might be on maintenance carryover item, MCO, and you only had one active auto pressurization controller, I always kind of went, "Oh no, I hope that it works," because if we go to manual pressurization, it's almost like a fate worse than death. It's like, no, I'm not going to.
There's going to be tears before bedtime.
Yeah, it's just horrible, absolutely horrible. And thank God I don't have to worry about doing that anymore in my life. Oh.
You do not, sir. No, all you have to worry about is the aircon in your RV. Yeah,
which is not on right now. Because I love you people so much, I don't want all that noise in the background. Let's see how later. I need to see if I can find. It is 79, so it's not too bad right now. 79 degrees.
Oh, it's gone up a little.
Yeah, a little bit.
You're not sweating enough, obviously.
Yeah. Next item, yes, ma'am, is this one from the Aviation Herald. A report. Alliance E190 at Alice Springs. Oh, you have a little experience in at Alice Springs, don't you?
Yes, I do. Nearly wrecked my Air Force career at Alice Springs, yes.
In this case, the E190 had a high rate of descent on approach as a result of man and machine out of sync. And we were just talking about air conditioning and manual pressurization being out of sync. Well, in this case, it's actually the control of the descent rate of this aircraft. It was an Alliance Airways Embraer ERJ-190 on behalf of Qantas. Registration Victor Hotel, Uniform Yankee November, performing flight 1690 from Darwin to Alice Springs. With 63 passengers, 4 crew, was approaching Alice Springs when the autopilot engaged, expecting to overfly runway 12 and perform a visual circuit to land on the runway. ATC offered a shortened track. They're here to help. And with which the crew accepted. And now they're thinking we probably shouldn't have, but needed to increase the rate of descent. Configuring the aircraft at high drag, the descent rate became higher than anticipated, and first attempts to arrest the sink rate were not successful. The aircraft descended through 1,800 feet MSL at, at above 3,000 feet per minute. Yikes.
Yikes. Yes, exactly right. So that's kind of 30 seconds before hitting the ground?
Yeah.
About?
So the automation did not respond the way the crew anticipated. Yeah, right. The crew disconnected the autopilot and in manual control landed the aircraft without further incident.
Oh, thank the Lord. That's the best thing they did all day.
Yes. So this happened about a year ago. Almost exactly a year ago, August 24th of 2023. And just recently, the final report was published by the Australian Transportation Safety Board. And the probable causes of the incident were, after accepting an ATC request at short notice to conduct a straight-in approach, the flight crew unnecessarily configured the aircraft with high drag in flight level change. We talked about that, I think, was the last episode talking about FLIT or flight level change. I think our anonymous feedback submitter was talking about the various modes of the autopilot. And so they were in high drag and flight level change mode to expedite the descent. As the aircraft pitched down to maintain the airspeed, the pilot flying made an inadvertent mode selection in the automatic flight system that went undetected by the flight crew. Okay, that's not good. Due possibly in part...
It's interesting they say it went undetected by the flight crew. How many flight crew were there? There were 2 of them. One of them made the change and the other bloke didn't spot it. Is that what actually happened?
So I think they're going to kind of give us the scenario here, what happened.
Okay. All right, I'll shut up.
do possibly impart to their work. No. I mean, you're making some really good points and asking really, really good questions. Do possibly impart to their workload. The pilot flying did not identify the aircraft was starting to automatically capture the selected altitude and selected a higher altitude. Okay. So in the auto flight systems that I've used, and in this case, this particular airplane as well, when the autopilot is in the altitude capture mode, and then you change the value of the altitude in the altitude select window or whatever it's called on your particular autoflight system, that basically tells the autopilot, oh, okay, you don't want me to capture that altitude anymore, especially if you roll in a higher altitude. And that's what happened here. So the airplane just kept on, okay, I'm just going to completely disregard the fact that you want me to level off at a certain altitude. I'm just going to keep on coming down at a very high rate. So the flight director this resulted in the flight director resuming the high rate of descent close to terrain. These changes were not promptly identified by the pilot monitoring, due in part to their focus to visually assessing the terrain clearance. In other words, the pilot was probably looking out the window going, oh, wow, if something doesn't happen pretty soon, we're going to die.
That's right.
That's why he wasn't paying attention.
Getting awfully big.
I know. They did find a key finding was the air traffic controller on the job. Let's see, the air traffic controller on the job training instructor detected the unusual descent and immediately alerted the flight crew. Okay.
I guess that's a job title, is it? And the on-the-job training instructor.
It's a weird title.
I don't.
I'd
want a slightly more sophisticated title, like the continual training manager.
Or are they trying to say that maybe he was training somebody and the actual student was the one that noticed the high rate of descent? I don't know. I don't understand what that means, actually. No, so I'm confused by that sentence. But anyway, so we talked about the fact that they were coming in, they were expecting to do so. And this is this is a common thread, and it's really hard not to accept help from air traffic control, because they're trying to be nice and think, well, you don't have to go all the way to the airport and then come all the way back around, for another circuit to land. Why don't you just set up for a straight-in approach, and we'll, give you a clearance to descend. And then they're thinking, yeah, that's great. Less time in the air. But sometimes that completely fouls up your planning, your descent planning. And
when you thought you had lots of room, you're now working like a one-arm paper hanger to get rid of all the height you've got.
Exactly. And then after the fact, you think, would it have been that bad of a thing just to say, well, hey, thanks, but no thanks. We've already briefed and set up for this, very controlled rate of descent and pattern. Yeah. So, I mean, I understand why, because ATC really was trying to help them out, but sometimes it's hard for us to say, no, thank you.
Correct.
So let's see, with the intention of crossing Aldim, which is, I guess, a fix on the approach, between 3,600 and 4,000 feet, the crew elected to increase the rate of descent by extending slats, flaps, speed brakes, and then selected flight level change mode in the flight management system to ensure the aircraft did not exceed the 210 knot speed requirement set by ATC. When it goes on to say that they further increased their descent rate by extending the landing gear. So they're basically throwing everything they can possibly throw out there to allow the airplane to slow down and to fly more slowly. And I've been in this situation many, many times in my career, and it gets really noisy when all that stuff is out and the gear comes down and you're going, a little bit faster than you normally would when you put the gear out.
And you start having to shout at each other because there's so much noise.
Hey, is this a good idea? Yeah, I think so. What could possibly go wrong?
Oh, dear. It's funny because we've been there.
I know. I've been there many times, actually. As the aircraft was in flight level change, there were no automated thrust changes. Consequently, when the landing gear was extended and the aircraft entered a turn, the increase in drag was not offset by an increase in thrust. As a result, the aircraft pitched nose down to maintain the selected speed of 200. So in flight level change, it's just going to whatever that speed you're at when you engage it, I guess, is what what it's going to say. Okay, I'm going to keep flying this speed. So you got everything hanging out. Throttles are probably back at idle. The nose is going to be pointed. You're going to see a lot of the ground and not so much of the sky.
Oh, yeah. Can I just tell you how much? 13
Yes.
degrees nose down.
Oh, my. That may not sound much to a casual observer or somebody that does aerobatics, but in a regular airplane, when you're 13 degrees nose below, that is, the ground is really filling a lot more of the windshield than you're used to seeing.
Yeah, I know.
That's why that first officer was visually acquiring terrain. He was going, "Wow, I've never seen anything like this before."
Is there some sky up there somewhere? Where's the sky gone?
Yeah. So anyway, they did the right thing eventually after realizing that the auto flight system, for whatever reason, and in this case it was induced by them, they made that flight level change in the altitude select window, and that kind of kicked the autopilot altitude capture mode off. They finally just turned everything off and manually flew the airplane, and boom, Bob's your uncle. They recovered the aircraft from the high rate of descent and had a nice, normal landing. They got back in sync, yes.
Yes, indeed.
What else to say, Captain Nick?
Well, not a lot really. I think we've covered it pretty well. If you're offered we used to call them snatches. If you're offered a snatch, and it used to be that you were expecting, say, a 20 or 30 mile track, and all of a sudden you're pointed straight at the center fix of the approach, 5 miles out, and said, "Can you do that?" I mean, your pride just says, "Of course we can do that. We're professional airline pilots. Who do you think you're talking to?"
I'm God's gift to piloting. Of course I can do that.
Exactly right. And it's only when all of a sudden you realize you haven't even done the approach checklist yet. You've got everything to hang out. You've got to configure the airplane. You've got to get the cabin crew to sit down. You've got to get the cabin secure. So everything now is concertinaed, squeezed into this tiny piece of space you've got left. And you're quite right. Air traffic controllers often think they're doing you a real favor. In reality, they might be setting you up for disaster. As almost, when I say disaster, but these guys got a severe shock, I think, because they just ended up behind the airplane. They're just not keeping up with the rate at which things are happening, and they're not double checking. They're not doing their usual nice flow of safe, steady activations. They're just grabbing things, throwing them out, hoping for the best. Lovely blokes, I'm sure. And I'm sure they sat down and had a beer afterwards and said, "Oh my God, what the hell were we thinking?"
Let's talk about this.
Yes, exactly.
What could we have done to prevent that from happening?
Yeah.
Wow.
Love it. It's good. It's a really good one to learn from, because there are people out there who might not have ever done this, and they might be going, "Oh, okay,
Don't forget, unable or thanks but no thanks or whatever is something that you have available to you, and don't let somebody kind of encourage you to do something that you're not really prepared to do, and then sometimes you have to just suck up your pride and say, no, let's just let's do the smart thing and do what we were planning on doing. That's the thing to learn from this. I think Captain Nick, you'd agree that just suck it up and go, nope, I'm sorry. If you'd given us that option a little bit further out, we would have definitely taken you up on it, but we're just too far in what we had already briefed. So we're going to continue with that. Anyway, we did. Now, what is it? It's just a preliminary report on it then.
The wheels fell off.
Yeah, we did. In fact, I think it wasn't it the subject of one of the cover art for that episode.
Oh, I can't remember. I've done cover art from a wheel falling off before, but I don't actually remember this one. But
yeah, so what I do remember this because I thought it was so convenient where the bogie actually landed. So what are we talking about? Well, we're talking about this accident. It was a Cargo Lux 747-400 at Luxembourg on May 14th of 2023. They couldn't retract their landing gear, and so they came. I think they dumped fuel and they came back and landed. Let's see. Unable to. So when they were climbing out of Luxembourg, they were unable to retract the landing gear. They returned for a landing on runway 6 about 50 minutes after departure. Upon touchdown, the right-hand center gear wheel bogie separated. The wheel bogie came to rest in front of the Cargo Lux hangar, because I remember saying,
Perfectly
how convenient.
positioned.
Are you showing that picture, Liz? Yeah, there you go.
Yep.
Look at
Looks
that.
great.
There you go. Yeah, no, it's a lot easier for
You're allowed to park here.
the maintenance people to find it. Let's see, the aircraft rolled out without further incident and was disabled on the runway. No injuries. The aircraft sustained substantial damage. The airline reported the aircraft was unable to retract its landing gear and was, as a result, was forced to dump fuel, blah, blah, blah. Okay, you get the gist. So the preliminary report, I don't know, does it really give us any...
No.
Let's see, I guess what they received, the annunciation they received after rotation was a gear tilt ICAS message, followed by a gear disagree ICAS message. The aircraft proceeded to the DIK holding fix with the, well, is it DIK? DIK? Yeah, but then Dick holding. I'm sorry, people. I can't help myself. But yeah.
Yes.
Well, they had to go to the bathroom, so that was appropriate.
Yes, right.
Anyway, where the crew performed the related non-normal checklist, they dumped fuel. In order to be cleared to dump fuel over land, the crew declared an emergency, and then the aircraft was vectored over an area over Belgium that the air traffic controllers didn't like the people there, apparently, and they allowed them to dump fuel there.
I mean, they took off from Luxembourg, so they told to go over Belgium to dump the fuel.
Don't dump over Luxembourg.
No, we don't want. No.
Although
the Luxembourgers don't like fuel on. No.
Not a lot of square acreage or square mileage on that country, so pretty much had to go to a different country to dump fuel, I think. Anyway, so when the aircraft touched down, the wheel truck of the right-hand bogie landing gear, I guess that's what the B stands for, right? I don't know. What does the B
I would
stand
assume.
for?
Yeah, I have no idea, but I would assume
boxes,
you're
maybe
right.
knows. With part of the inner cylinder attached, separated from the aircraft. In this process, the separated gear assembly impacted the lower part of the aft fuselage multiple times and struck the right-hand horizontal stabilizer.
It put a few dents in that pretty little airplane, didn't it?
Yeah, wham. I wish we had video of this. That would have been pretty impressive. Yeah, it was a little bit more than a bump. Yeah. Okay. Well, there you have it. They're investigating, and I'm sure we'll get the final report sometime in the future, and then we'll see exactly what happened. Okay.
Yeah.
It just done broke is what happened.
I think it fell off.
Yep. From BB. Yeah, that was worth it. Thank you, Liz. From BBC.com. Helicopter on unauthorized flight crashes into Australian hotel.
Sad.
Let's see. Emergency services rushed to evacuate the hotel in Cairns. Cairns,
yes. You don't so much on the R.
Cairns.
Cairns.
Say it. Okay.
Cairns.
What he said. Pilots died after their helicopter crashed into the roof of a hotel in Australia during an unauthorized early morning flight. The aircraft hit the DoubleTree by Hilton Hotel in the northern Queensland city of...
Oh, sorry, I wasn't even listening there. Of Cairns.
Obviously. Okay, let me try it again. The aircraft hit the DoubleTree by Hilton Hotel in the northern Queensland city of...
Cairns.
At around 1:50 local time on Monday, sparking a fire, forcing the evacuation of hundreds of guests. Authorities say the only occupant of the helicopter died at the scene. and 2 hotel guests, a man in his 80s and a woman in her 70s, were taken to a hospital in stable condition. Some local media reports have suggested that the helicopter was stolen. Nautilus Aviation, which owned the helicopter, said it would work closely with all authorities in Queensland as they examined the unauthorized use of one of our helicopters in the early hours of the morning. Amanda Kay, who was staying in the hotel in the main Esplanade, described seeing a helicopter flying extra low without lights in rainy weather. It has turned around and hit the building, she said, adding that the aircraft blew up. Another bystander said she saw the helicopter fly past the hotel twice in the moments before the collision. Boy, that was going fast, that helicopter. Unbelievable, a woman said in video showing the fiery aftermath of the crash. It was just going out of control, that thing was. 2 of the helicopter's rotor blades came off on impact, landing on the Esplanade and in the hotel pool, according to Queensland Ambulance Service. Let's see. Okay, we're not going to do any more quotes from people, although it's kind of fun. I wish I could do an Australian accent. Maybe you could do some of these quotes, Nick, in Australian accent.
There's been a report. It sounded like a bomb. And after that, smoke was seen and fire coming from that. A lot of the occupants at the hotel were very unsure about the situation.
Yeah.
That's the best I could do, sorry.
Okay, well, it's better than I could do.
It was just going out of control, that thing was.
Uh-huh. Yeah. So, is this it? I mean,
well, I think it's so early. I think they've decided. I think the rumours are, of course, that it was pinched, and we've got a similar situation to that poor troubled chap that pinched an aeroplane. Was it up in Alaska and flew around, did aerobatics? There, Seattle.
Oh,
but I mean, it's too early to say. So
yeah. I mean, I'm wondering if they were targeting that hotel specifically, and
might have been
somebody that was working there,
or somebody who checked in there with his wife. I don't know. Don't know.
Something happened. I think recently. It's not in our news, but maybe we'll cover it at some point. Where somebody took a Cessna 150 or something like that and just purposely drove it into. It was some kind of a plant that makes explosives or has like gasoline or some. I don't know. I'll see if I can find that, Liz, and we can add it to the the pile. It was an explosive. Actually, it wasn't. It didn't blow. It didn't blow up.
Thank the Lord for that.
But the airplane did, and of course the guy that was flying it was killed. But I think that was the only injury. Anyway, that's not what we're talking about now. Well, yeah. Okay, yeah, we'll see what else they find out in this particular case. And then one more Australian, because this is, the time of the month that we do the Australian news stories.
Fair enough.
This was sent in by Joe on Facebook. Fremantle players flew from Launceston. Okay, say it again, Nick.
Launceston, I would say.
To Perth, I got that one. With no working toilets. Cabin crew forced to manually clean toilet bowls in farcical scenes.
Shouldn't that be fecal scenes?
Or for fecal scenes. This is from ABC News, Australian Broadcasting Corporation. So Fremantle players were allegedly forced to urinate in bed. You come over here and I force you to urinate in these basins. I guess they really. Yeah. Yes, it is, Liz. So the to urinate in basins. So what I'm assuming they mean is like the sinks in the lavatories. They were peeing in there, I guess. The flight ran out of water half an hour into the journey home, and I take it was like a 4-hour flight, something like that. It was a charter flight. Now, I didn't see anywhere in this news report because I guess most normal people really don't care what kind of airplane it was, but I'm kind of curious. What
so am I.
Type of airplane was this that was forced to continue flying without operable? Okay. Liz is gonna staff. These people
Wouldn't
that just-
surprise me if it was an Airbus, because, you know, there's one part of the Airbus that has never really been top notch, in my opinion.
really?
But what do I know?
But
Yeah,
I guess it happens in all types. But I'm not sure. You know, that area. Are you familiar with this Launceston or whatever? Do you know
Launceston.
that
Well,
place? You know where that is? I know it's kind of.
It's a place, I think, in Western Australia. It's
kind of desolate out there, right? I mean, it's like not a lot of
toilets.
Well, I mean, like places for the flight to divert to and land.
No, there's not a huge number of diversions, depending on how big the airplane actually was.
Yeah.
We don't really know.
Well, here's the good part, and when I say that, I don't mean this. I mean like the opposite. Cabin crew were required to manually scoop toilet waste into basins in scenes that have been labeled utterly unacceptable by the Transport Workers Union.
Well, there I happen to agree.
Yeah, Fremantle says it's working closely with the AFL to ensure appropriate flight conditions are met moving forward, with the league investigating the incident. Let's see. So they were allegedly forced to urinate in basins on the flight back home after the plane ran out of water. The dockers were aboard a chartered flight. Yeah.
If it was, it's just interesting because if, in my experience, the cabin crew were in charge of making sure that the aircraft was refilled with water, potable water, isn't that right?
Yes, it's exactly right. That's what I'm going with that now.
Okay, and now that the potable water wasn't full anymore, of course the toilets won't flush, so you can't get rid of anything out of the loos. But having said that, the urine should disappear. It's just that there's no water there to aid the. Depends what kind of aircraft and how their loo systems work.
Yeah, if it's like one of those vacuum kind of systems, or if it's a more
exactly. Yeah, it only has a tiny bit of water in there just to help lubricate the contents so that it all disappears.
Mm-hmm.
But
it sounds like a pretty kind of situation.
Yeah, but I mean, I wonder if this is all a lot of this. If the captain knows he hasn't got any toilets, but he thinks, it's only a 4-hour flight, this lot can hold it, and we'll figure something out when we get airborne, because he's got a bit of press on ITIS, and he knows he's got to get this team into Perth for their game. That might have created a lot of bad feeling amongst the crew. I'm only guessing now. I don't know for sure, but yeah.
Well, I mean, you have to guess in this case because there's very little information.
There's nothing else we're going to hear. Okay,
yeah, Liz,
it's just that we had a situation with one of our captains tried to bring an airplane back from New York to London without any toilets on board, but there we're talking 200 or 300 passengers, and the cabin crew absolutely refused to man the aircraft. So in that case, I don't blame them one iota. But what happened on this one, I don't know, of course.
Mm-hmm. Tasmania is where lots.
Okay. Thanks. Well, that's the bottom right-hand corner. In fact, it's a little island off the bottom right-hand corner of Australia. So he's going to go all the way across the Bight and the Great Australian Bight and the Nullarbor Desert, I think is the right one, and then you go to Perth. So, yes, that is a reasonably long flight, but again, there aren't. Once you've sort of headed west of Edinburgh and places like that, there aren't a lot of big airports. So, yeah.
Well, yeah, Liz can't determine the aircraft type, but Main Man Micah makes the good point. Those Australians can be real pissers. And
they can, yes.
Also, the flight attendant said, "You're in trouble."
Oh, God.
Oh, yeah?
Oh,
the team joined the Pile High Club. Oh, my gosh.
No.
Yeah, that's no good. Yeah, I don't know. This just something doesn't sound quite right about this whole situation, but that's really the APG in a nutshell.
Yeah, but it might give us a good show title.
Yeah, that's true. All right, let's do some getting to know us. What do you think?
Yeah, sure.
That's the time of the show where we get to know what's been happening with all of the many, many crew members that are guest hosting today's show, which means Captain Nick and I.
Yes.
So hopefully we'll be kind of a
the
nice
whole
short.
team.
Yeah. Yeah. So Captain Nick, please, I'd like to know because I'm not sure exactly what you've been up to since we last did the show. So please fill me in.
I would love to. There's not a lot been going on, really, other than to say I haven't been feeling brilliantly. So I tried to play some bowls and wasn't very successful. In fact, one game I had to pull out of. So I'm just suffering a bit from aches and pains. I don't think it is just a matter of old age, but it's becoming it's slightly difficult to cope with. So I'm trying to get the doctors here to give me a good idea. I've had x-rays and things. So ongoing. We'll have to see what comes of it, but I'm hoping before long we can find a cause and find a cure. Because at the moment it's putting a bit of a dampener on my life, and I'm not enjoying that. On the other hand, today was a lovely birthday of one of my neighbours, lovely lady Shirley, and she's just cracked 90 years. And in celebration, she took those of us who are her neighbours and her family out on a narrow boat. One of the guys tried to call it a longboat, and I was going, no, that's the Vikings. They had longboats. Narrow boats are the barges that went up and down the canals of England in the Industrial Revolution in order to move stuff around. And in fact, they're very efficient at it. And the UK is crisscrossed with canals that nowadays a lot of them have been renovated. They're wonderful. They're in the countryside, and they're full of lovely barges that float around for people on holiday. For some people live on them, etc. So being on a narrowboat on a canal in the UK is just a wonderful thing to do. And this particular, sorry.
No, I was going to say, isn't that what we saw when we went to Stratford
upon Avon? Yes,
yeah,
indeed.
Yeah,
and
cool.
This one was kitted out for entertaining. So we climbed on board, and you motor at a very sedate walking pace up the canals, and meanwhile we were treated to lovely things to eat and wine and all sorts. So it was a very pleasant afternoon. The only problem was that they go even slower than anyone was anticipating. So
if you're in a hurry, this is not your transportation mode.
Exactly. So when you suddenly look at your watch and you realize, we were supposed to have docked half an hour ago, and we've still got some distance to go. So I was a bit worried I was going to miss the show, but no, we got back just about in enough time. So
excellent.
Oh yeah, that's quite common. Don't worry. It's just that canals, by their nature, aren't very deep, and of course they get a build up of silt. And sometimes
did you have to get out
it's quite
and push?
Easy to push. Luckily not. They very carefully reversed off and picked a track that was better. Anyway, it was a lovely... instantly, when you're on one of these and you're just pottering along and you're watching the beautiful countryside float by, even though this was the Basingstoke Canal, which is... in the middle of a big town, Basingstoke, but we were on the outskirts heading off into the countryside. You just slow down. Everything winds down. All of a sudden, it's really nice. You've become more relaxed. It's just a fabulous way to spend a while. Or even we've had holidays on canal boats, Gilly and I, and taking the kids out and dogs and things, and they're great fun.
I think Carlos, his dad bought one of these canal boats or narrow boats or whatever you call them, not long boats. I think that's all kitted up as a residence, like a motorhome.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly what. I always thought if I had a change in my circumstances, ended up on my own, that's what I would do. I would probably sell the house and buy a really nice narrowboat and just spend the rest of my life, because you can go all around the UK. You can even go across to Europe and go all around Europe on the canals. And certainly in the UK, every day's trip, you'll pass a dozen pubs. So you can pick a pub for breakfast, you can pick a pub for lunch, for supper.
Love it.
Me. And then
I think you drank too much of that canal water or something.
Yeah, sorry about that. And then you can moor up, and so long as you don't stay there more than 2 weeks or so, you're fine. You just moor up, and when you want to move on, you move on.
There we go. We'd have it covered. Water vessel and, and road vessel.
I would be excellent. So
how do you get
anyway? So that's been a lovely day.
You can actually take one of those canal boats like over the English Channel to Europe.
Yeah, if you pick your weather, or there is safer to actually pick a friend and strap two together and then go across as a pair, because
I thought you were going to say find a friend who will drive your sail your canal boat over the channel, and then you just
well, that's the other way of doing it.
Meet on the other side. Say thanks. You made it.
Yeah, well done. Congratulations. I'm glad you didn't turn turtle. No, they're not very good in heavy water, as you can probably imagine. They're very flat bottomed, so they would roll terribly, and they might actually roll over. So, which is why you strap two together if you want to go across there. But once you're in the European system, it goes on for miles and miles and miles. Fabulous. And it's just a lovely way to
sounds nice
around. Yeah, it is great. So that's been today, and that's been absolutely lovely. And other than that, my life has been nice and quiet, thank you.
What about the bowls? They're not over, are they?
Well, they're getting that way. The competition I couldn't complete was one of my last singles games, and that's we've had a great season, but there's not much else left to do now. So if I wanted to, I could bowl through the winter indoors, but I'm having a think about whether I might take just a break while my legs and things get better.
Oh, okay.
And just see if I can, before I commit myself to winter bowling.
Take a load off.
Coming up for me next week, I'm off to visit. I am going to go and visit Andrew Wright, one of our lovely listeners and good friend of mine, at his place of work, because he works, I believe, for Times Radio, Times the newspaper. They have a sort of radio channel and podcast as well. And he's a producer with that lot. So I'm off to London next week, which I'm really looking forward to. It'll probably be after the next show. But I'm going to go and have sit and see him do his thing. I guess it's a bit like Micah, but Andrew is a producer rather than, I think, the man behind the mic. I didn't mean Micah. I meant Radio Roger. Sorry, yeah. That was
Radio Roger. Okay,
just a brain fart there. Sorry about that. Yeah, because I went to visit Radio Roger at his studio in New York on one of my trips, and so I guess it'll be a little bit like that. But I'm looking forward to finding out what it will be like. It'll be indeed. But other than that, it's all looking pretty quiet now.
Good. Time to relax, heal up a little bit. Yeah.
Yes. Indeed.
All right. So I'm back at the Sawney campground on Lake Lanier. Just
parked up in the moist tip of your.
Yes, it's I'm peninsula. On the very end of the protrusion into the lake, and it's an amazing sight. I mean, I'm looking over here to my left. I see the lake. Behind me, I can't see it because there's not a window back there, but I know the lake's there. And then over here to my right, another view of the lake. It's just 270-degree view or 300-degree view of the lake all around. Really nice. Had a little issue with ants the first night that I stayed here, and I think I've figured that I've come up with a solution on that. But apparently, those little boogers are kind of thirsty. Those thirsty ants were looking for water.
What are they,
So
drinking your beer or something?
No, they're drinking some. I had like that water, that black water kettle, but I had it stored underneath the one of the bench seats at this dinette, and I thought I'd figure it out, or I'd gotten rid of all the indoor ants, and then I went the other day to make some coffee, and I pulled that thing out, and it was just literally covered with hundreds, if not thousands, of ants. And I went,
wow,
oh,
where
okay.
are they getting in from?
From somewhere down in the water bay, utility bay, where the water hose comes in, I guess. Something that I guess it doesn't take much of a little bit of a gap for these. These are these teeny tiny ants, not big ants.
Right.
Yeah, so I figured out a way to fix that situation. So I really haven't. Let's see. So I left. So I guess the last time that you saw me was up when we were in Liz's studio, and we recorded the show, our last episode up there. And then she finally said, "Okay, Jeff, you gotta move on. I've had it. You gotta get out of here. Got to go back to the States." Okay. So I picked up my stuff and put it in my house and took off and ended up running by Guelph, Ontario, which is kind of on the other side of the Pearson International from where you live, Liz, a little west out there. A little bit of a detour, but it was definitely worth it. I think I mentioned that I had contacted Steve and Adam from Lost Aviator Coffee Company, and knowing that they were airline pilots and they may not be at the coffee roastery when I was driving by, but fortunately Steve said he would be there. I think Adam was on a trip. And so I got to meet with Steve. There's a picture we're showing in the video, and again, we'll put that in the show notes. And it may actually be right now in one of the little chapter images. Depends on how much energy I have after we record the show. But you can always go to the show notes, which would be airlinepilotguy.com/ I can't, just for some reason, I can't put the number like 626. I have to say APG 626, or in this case, lowercase APG 627, and then you'll be on the show notes page for this episode. Anyway, there's lots of ways to figure that out. So this is a wonderful picture in front of the, I forgot what the capacity of this roaster is. I think it's like, is it 30 pounds or 50 pounds, something like that. I think was made, I think this roaster was made somewhere in the U.S. He told me, I just have forgotten exactly where, but he said he's trying to keep it all Canadian/US made equipment in their business. And so it was nice. Gave me the big deluxe tour of the coffee roastery, and chatted for a while. And I ended up getting he gave me some coffee beans, one of which called Prohibition Roast. The green coffee beans are actually soaked in, or I'm not sure if they were soaked, but they put them in these bourbon barrels. I guess they were sherry barrels from Spain or something like that, and then were imported into the U.S. And then some distillery used them to age bourbon whiskey. And then when they're finished using them, then places like Steve's Lost Aviator Coffee Company buys them and puts the green beans in there. And they actually, when you open the bag, Nick, it's like you can smell, it has a whiskey smell to it. It's interesting.
Wow.
There's no
Can you
alcohol
taste
in
it?
it.
Can you taste
you can
it on the coffee?
There is a taste of it, but there's obviously no alcohol, because that's all, whatever the term is, not distilled.
That's
but
great.
Anyway, it's gone. But that was interesting. I had a cup of that this morning. So Steve, if you're listening, very, very nice. So I got back. Oh, and then another thing, I saw this coffee mug from Lost Aviator Coffee Company, and it was established in 2020. And thank you. There we go. A little bit larger view of it there. And then the thing I really love about this coffee mug is what is written on the back of it. Aviate, navigate, caffeinate.
Excellent.
Little
Excellent.
take off on. Oh, I forgot that I had water still in here.
You see, Lost Aviator is the perfect name for you when you're driving around in your RV, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Which word? I think I missed what you said.
Lost Aviator.
Oh, lost? Yeah, I'm a lost aviator for sure.
Yeah.
Luckily, I have Liz, the dispatcher, the road vessel dispatcher, kind of keeping track of where I am. And where are you going, Jeff? I don't know.
Yeah, just turn around again.
Sure.
And this time,
anyway.
turn around 180 degrees, not 360.
Exactly. Well, you didn't specify. So after my visit with Steve at Lost Aviator,
Oh,
kept on
by the
going
way,
down.
I love
Yeah.
the pose you've both got going. What is this? This is copy my mate Steve, or which one of you was copying the other?
I think I was.
Look at
I
you.
think I did that first, and then he saw me. And but I could be wrong. Maybe maybe we just did it independently and didn't even realize we were.
Well,
both.
when you're enjoying someone's company, there's a tendency to copy their mannerisms, isn't there? And this is a perfect example.
I think we were both having the discussion about our hip sizes, and so we were kind of just sizing up our hips.
Yeah,
And,
that's right.
yeah.
Both got a little carrying a bit extra there, are you?
Hey, shut up. All right. And let's see. So let's move on, shall we? As I did from Guelph, Ontario, I continued down toward the Niagara Falls. What was it? Lewiston? Is that what that area is called, Liz? No, you're muted. I can't hear you. Queenston, Ontario, and where? Lewiston, New York, and crossed the border there. Nice, easy. They let me back into the U.S.
Wow.
And yeah, but I got lucky again. And
they kind
it was
of got
nice.
my email.
Nice and easy, and ended up on a little island in the Niagara River, this piece of land they call Grand Island, and staying at a campground there. And then the next day, I set off for a little bit north of Buffalo, but like
Can
the
I just
outskirts
ask you a question, Jeff?
Yeah.
Your campground in the river, was it noisy? Could you hear the falls?
No, it wasn't anywhere close enough to hear
okay.
anything. Yeah.
All right. I was just
that
curious.
that was miles away. So in fact, I don't even remember in the campground. It was a pretty big piece of land there that they call Grand Island. It's a what, Linz? It's a big island. Yeah. But anyway, so yeah, I didn't even see any water until I recrossed the Niagara River going into the northern part of the Buffalo area. What is it called, Liz? Tonawanda or something like that? Yeah. Yeah, something like that. And I met up with someone that you hear us talk about pretty much every show, and we're talking about our website and the APG library. Yeah, I met up with APG librarian Tiffany Walsh, and she lives in that area, Buffalo. And so we had lunch at a place called Sean Patrick's. I have to say and apologize to Mike Cochran, who now lives in the Buffalo area, and let's see, who was it? Shoot, I should have written this down. Somebody else. Oh, Ed. Remember we were having one of our new patrons, Liz, Ed, and we said it was either cough or cock. Well, he wrote to me, and let me read what he said. He said, "Hi, Jeff. Recently signed up as an executive producer and realized my last name caused some debate between you and Liz. As you can imagine, I had to live with that name for 69 plus years. Anyway, the correct pronunciation rhymes with loaf, so it's Ed Kof. So now we know." Yeah, he said, "I'm also a retired, in May of 2020, retired pilot with Delta. I reside in Buffalo, New York. If you haven't already passed through this area after your Toronto visit, I'd like to get together and show you around the area. I would particularly recommend a visit to the Glenn Curtis Museum in the New York Finger Lakes region. The museum is a must-see for aviation enthusiasts. There's plenty to see in this area, including many fine microbreweries. If interested, give me a call, text, or email. And again, that's Ed Kof. Yeah, so I wrote back and said, I'm sorry. I made plans to meet up with Tiffany, and I was not going to be spending any great deal of time in the area, but I promise that next year when I'm up there, we'll do some kind of a meetup, because and Mike Cochran basically said the same, Liz. He said, oh yeah, I'm living up here in the Buffalo area. Let's get together. And I could have had a nice Buffalo meetup with some of the community. Yeah. Well, anyway, the lunch with Tiffany was wonderful, and I do have some audio to play. So if you'll leave that picture up of the two of us, I will find the audio file. Here we go. Well, I'm here with the APG librarian, Tiffany. You hear me talking about her on every show, usually every show at the end. And she lives in the Buffalo, New York general area. And my travels took me right through the Buffalo area. And so I got in touch with Tiffany and told her I was going to be here and hoped that she would be in town when I went through. And yay, she was. And so she suggested this restaurant, Sean Patrick's, not far from where you live, right? Mm-hmm. And it was a great meal, and of course, great conversation as always. So Tiffany, I want you to say hello. I'm not sure anybody's actually heard your voice on APG, or maybe they have. We've done a recording in the past where we've met up on layover and that kind of thing. Okay, well here she, just in case you haven't heard the lovely voice of Tiffany, here she is. I think just a quick pause here on the audio file playback. You hear that noise in the background. I think that the manager beating up some of the employees. I think that's what it is. I was able to remove the screaming, but not the sound of the impact. So I do apologize.
Hello, everybody in APG land. I always covet the opportunity to meet up with Captain Jeff. And we were reminiscing and realizing it's been a little over 3 years since the last time we met up. And at that time, Captain Jeff was on a layover, and I had lunch with him and his first officer, Brent. Back in the... Yay, Brent! Yeah, we miss Brent. We went to Dinosaur Barbecue, I think, in downtown. Or no, we tried to go to Dinosaur Barbecue, and they were closed. So we ended up somewhere else down there and had a great time. But very glad to be reunited with Captain Jeff, passing through the Buffalo, Niagara, greater area on his way to his next adventure.
Absolutely. It's always a pleasure to meet up with you, Tiffany. We've known each other for quite some time. I think we were figuring out,
we did the math. 2013,
was it,
yes,
that we first met each other in person?
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's been almost 11 years.
Yikes.
I know. And I remember it very fondly. And it seems like it was not that long ago, but I think that's what happens as time goes on. You lose track of distances in time. You know, things seem more compressed, like things that were... you feel like were only a couple years ago were actually 5 years ago, and it seems like things that were 5 years ago were actually 10 years ago.
Exactly. And I was telling her, it gets worse the older you get. So look forward to that. Yeah. Well, anyway, so it was great seeing you, Tip, and enjoyed our lunch together and our conversation, and I look forward to making it an annual thing.
Good. I hope that he does. Yay.
All right. Okay, well, now you know what to do. You send it back to me in the studio.
Back to you, Jeff, in the studio.
Oh, thanks. Got it.
Good job. Good
Tim
catch.
Van Ram says, looks like Jeff is leaning away from the check. No, I'd already paid the check, Tim. Yeah. Anyway, always a joker, isn't he? Yeah, so it was a great time. Thanks, Tiff, for taking time to meet up with me. I know you're a busy person, and yeah, and she's amazing. She really is. So after Buffalo, went down to along Lake Erie and then Erie, PA, and headed south to between Erie and Pittsburgh, a little place called Harmony, PA, to the Log Cabin Inn. And it's a restaurant that's a Harvest Host. And so one of the things they say is like when you get here and you park, and they kind of tell you where to park and away from the restaurant, because they don't want the riffraff, being in front. They want them, like out back. But found a nice spot there. And so when I was walking up to have dinner around, I don't know, it's probably around 6:30 on a Friday evening. So it was very busy. In fact, there were several people I passed on the way to the bell stand, or whatever you call that, the hostess stand. And I'm thinking, ooh, that's really busy. I'm wondering how long, maybe I'll just eat at the bar, which is what I normally do anyway, because I'm usually just by myself. The bar was packed. There wasn't a spot available there either. And I said, how long is the wait? And she said, like an hour and 45 minutes or something like that. I went, oh, okay. And so I said, oh, yeah. And just to let you know, I'm a Harvest Hoster, and I've parked out here. And I told them where I'd parked and all. And she goes, oh, just a minute. And so she leaves and gets the manager, and the manager comes up, and they're looking at stuff. And I'm thinking, well, I can wait. I mean, I don't, please don't put me ahead of everybody. But they sat me down at a table. And I'm thinking, wow, that was a nice little perk, being, part of the Harvest Host
excellent
organization.
Done.
Yeah, I really did feel guilty, because I sat at a table for 4 people, and all those people, I kept thinking the whole time I'm meeting, all these people are out there just like waiting for over an hour to get a table. And I didn't mention the fact that I was with Harvest Hosts to get a table. I just did that because they told me I had to tell them that I was there and I was parked. Anyway, so that was nice. It was a nice meal at the Log Cabin Inn. Then headed down to Wytheville, Virginia, driving through the West Virginia Turnpike, which is just absolutely gorgeous, and stayed at through the mountains, and stayed at the KOA in Wytheville, Virginia, and then. Let's see, the next day went to Mass, and then got on the road down toward the northeastern corner of Georgia, very close to where I was renting a cabin in 2021, 22, I think, was the time frame, just under a year. And went to a vineyard there, another Harvest Host location, Stonewall Creek Vineyard, and had some nice wine, and had a good time there. And then I visited, I don't know if I mentioned this to you, Liz, I went over to the restaurant I always enjoyed going to, called Blue Canoe, and sat at the bar and saw the bartender that I'd kind of befriended a couple of years ago. And I'm thinking, I wonder if he's going to remember me. And I said, hey, Brian. He turns around and goes, Jeff. I think actually he called me Jack. Anyway, but it was close, pretty darn close, I'd
nice,
say.
Yeah.
And so there were a couple of people to the left of me at the bar. It's a very small bar, and one of them was, I think, a waitress that was off duty with her boyfriend or significant other, and they were at the bar. And anyway, she goes, I don't think I've ever seen Brian get so excited to see somebody ever in my life.
Oh, great.
And they were making
That's
fun of him.
nice.
And he said, yeah, I was just thinking about you the other day. And she goes, with his clothes on? Anyway, so she was giving him a bad time. Anyway, I had a great meal there at Blue Canoe. And it was nice seeing Brian again, the bartender. And then the next day, headed to where I am now. It's Sawney Campground. Got here on Monday, and I'm going to be here this week. I've been doing a lot of singing at the church. Funeral mass on Tuesday, and then Wednesday, the vigil mass of the Holy Day of Obligation for the Catholics here around the world, actually. The Assumption of Mary. And so I sang at the vigil mass on Wednesday night, and then 2 masses yesterday. And I got the day off today, no singing, except the coffee fund. I'll sing a little bit there. And then tomorrow, back in my normal routine of singing at the masses on Saturday and Sunday. And then Monday morning, I'm out of this campground and moving over to the other lake. Instead of the northeast, it's the northwest of Atlanta, called Lake Allatoona, where Dana has his boat/boats. I'm not sure if he still has 2 or 1. And there's a nice Georgia State campground called Red Top State Park, and and I'm going to be there for, I think, for like 10 days. So I pretty much booked myself up in campgrounds to almost the end of this month. And then after that, not sure what I'll be doing, but I'll probably be hanging around the area longer. So you're all caught up now with what I've been up to. And okay, let's do the cover. Oh yeah, Super Fred Driver says Red Top is a great area. Yeah, so I stayed there one night so far, and that was that first night that I came in when I took my little break from my inaugural voyage and came back for a quick visit here. And the reason why I stayed there for the one night is because this campground and a lot of the campgrounds here on Lake Lanier don't allow what they call walk-ups or the same day reservation. So, but Red Top Mountain State Park at Georgia State Park allowed me to do same day. So it was really nice, and I look forward to staying there. Okay, let's do some cover art from the last episode 626. And the title of the show, Doctor of Piloting. And I think, was it Rick that said like the PhD of piloting or something like that? Yeah. Yeah. And so we have a nice, what do you call it? Certificate. Captain Nick, please tell us all of the essential elements of this wonderful piece of
well, there's not much to say, really. Yeah, we got the idea from Rick. There was a certain amount of discussion of aviation parliamentary gatherings, APG, and that was something that I could have gone with, but no, this was much easier just to do this lovely little certificate. And I've never seen one before, so this was purely out of my imagination. And
I like it.
It's from the University of Airline Pilotage Geyser. So I thought that Liz hit the nail on the head when she said, "Oh, that must be like drinking your knowledge out of a fire hose," and I thought that was absolutely perfect for anyone training to be a pilot. And I managed to put a few of the professors in there. So we have got the professor of topless flying in her University of APG hat. We have got the professor of plumbing and the professor of ditching, all of which are on the sort of wet side of the certificate, where you've got waterfalls and nymphs coming out of ponds and things. And I thought actually the frame around Nick's head looked a bit like a toilet seat, so I thought that was perfect. And right in the center, of course, we have got the APG Chancellor. And rather than having to convert another photograph, your cartoon was ideal for that.
Perfect.
So thanks for that. Yeah, exactly. So it's basically a bit of
That's actually a photograph.
Yeah, it's very good. It's very good photograph. Who took that?
Yeah,
exactly.
Huge eyes and tiny little retinas.
Scattered with aeroplanes all around. Now, the APG logo is, of course, on Steph's hat. That's easy to spot. But where is the show number? 626. So
I don't think I was able to.
I mean, one of the reasons that Steph's over there, the professor of topless plumbing, is because she's beside a five-breasted lady. But
there's a lot
just
of plumbing
up
right
there. Indeed, a lot of plumbing. Just up and left a bit was another bare-breasted lady, and I gave her some support. Can you see it?
Oh,
it's by the tail of that Farman monoplane, right in the center of the picture, or top center of the picture. Go to the tail of that. Can you see it?
Yeah, I see the tail of the one that's in the very middle.
Yeah, just above the word doctor.
Yeah.
Okay, go from the tail up and right a little bit, and you'll see a lady's chest.
Yes.
Well, there, she's got some assistance in the support category. Can
I
you
can't
see
really
it?
make it out because we weren't able to zoom in, so I can't.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a shame because if you could zoom in, you'd see that she was being supported by 2 6s, which were held together by a 2. 6 2 6.
Oh.
Anyway, that's where it is.
Okay.
And there were a few other little jokes in there, but too many to mention now. But
Yeah.
it all got a bit confusing eventually.
Well, it's very elaborate. I mean, did the AI come up with all that?
No, I did that all off.
Oh,
I did that all myself off
Wow.
other stuff. And Photoshop, of course. Good old.
I should have known
Photoshop.
because all the fingers, they had the correct amount of fingers on all the hands.
Yes, indeed. No AI use this week.
Oh, well, excellent. Beautiful job as always. That would be something.
Print one out and stick it on your wall, and you.
I was going to say. I need to do that. I need to get one of these things in print and put it up like right behind me, right here.
Brilliant.
On
Yes.
this space.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very good. That would look great.
Actually, it'd be really cool. It's like if I had some kind of a flat monitor right up here, and then I could just send images to that.
Oh no, that would be a great idea.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe
would it not support one?
That. I think it would. I'm just not sure how I'd do the wiring, but I'll have to think about that. Maybe I'll do that.
Cool.
Okay. Coffee Fund it is. Here we go.
Johnny, how much more coffee?
No thanks.
I love coffee. I love tea. I love the APG community. Coffee and tea and the Java and me. A cup, a cup, a cup, a cup, a cup. Oh yeah, well, that's a little bit too low for me. The Coffee Fund, it's your way to support our show financially. Lots of ways to support our show by telling your friends about it and sending us feedback and and then being part of our live audience when we record these shows live. But another way is that if you have the financial resources, you can join our coffee bar club, or the Coffee Fund cadre, as I like to call it. A couple different ways to do that. You can find out about how to do that by going to airlinepilotguy.com/coffee. But the original method, the classic method we like to call it, is through PayPal. And we have several people who sent us, some of these are recurring contributors, George Hollis, Mazuz Karim, and then Richard Burnson, Ed Kelly, and Jenny in Rome. Thank you one and all for contributing to the Coffee Fund. And another way to be a participant in our coffee bar club is to become a patron of the show via patreon.com. And information about that can be found again on our website. And you'll think about joining the club. I think you'll be glad you did, and we will too. airlinepilotguy.com/coffee. All right. I'm waiting for some cool air to start pouring down on me. What I could do, let me see if I turn this fan on. I'm hot. I'm going to turn on this fan and see if it makes too much noise. Oh. So I can get out of my seat. Sticking to it.
I'm not in your seat. What are you talking about? Ah, poor old Jeff.
That's not going to work.
Got a bit of wind blowing over the mic now.
Blowing right on the microphone.
Yes.
That will not do. Yeah, I need a dead cat.
No, sea too rough, no muff too tough.
Okay. Can you hear it now?
No, it sounds okay. It's just a very faint whine, but it's not loud at all.
Okay. Well, that's helpful for me. Okay. Okay, feedback. Here we go. Where's the feedback? Here it is.
Captain, incoming message.
Alrighty, we're going to start with this feedback from a guy you hear at the beginning of each show doing the intro, Radio Roger. He says, Dear Captain Jeff, I've been meaning to submit feedback about a pet peeve of mine. Oh, I should probably find the pet peeves. Yeah, let's see. A good host would have already had this ready to go. But I'm
just
not a
press
good
the
host.
P button.
Okay, let me see what happens.
Potable.
Yeah. Yeah. Here we go.
Ooh,
Rogers.
Jeff's pet peeves. Ooh, Jeff's
Rogers
pet peeves.
All right. There we go. Gonna have to do a
Nice
little bit of editing around that. Okay. So back to Roger. Yes, I too have pet peeves, just like the great Captain Nielsen. But time caught up with me, and I realized that we just passed a milestone in the story I wanted to tell. So I got cracking, and here it is. All right, so we're going to play Rogers, and I think if you'll put up the... let me look and see. I don't have enough screen here. Yeah. No. Put up my... I'll do it. That. But let me find the right thing to select. It's just a mess here, isn't it? Okay, here we go. Here we go.
It was 50 years ago this month that something which sounds incredible took place without people knowing about it. Air Force One took off from outside Washington, and there's no record of it ever landing. In fact, Air Force One never concluded that flight. Did the plane crash or get shot down? Was there a huge cover-up of the incident? Of course not. You would have certainly heard about that. But all the facts I just stated are true, and the explanation for that involves a pet peeve of mine. You see, most people and even some journalists describe Air Force One as if it's a specific plane. It is not. It's the flight designation for any Air Force plane carrying the president, or if it's the vice president, Air Force Two. There are several planes equipped to serve as Air Force One, including 2 modified 747s and 737s. In fact, President Clinton regularly used a 737 as Air Force One when he flew home to Chappaqua, New York. White Plains Airport can't accommodate a jumbo jet, nor was there a need for a long-haul aircraft. So let's go back to the date of August 8, 1974. With the Watergate scandal overwhelming President Richard Nixon, he became the first and only U.S. president to announce his resignation. He would end his presidency effective noon the next day. That morning, August 9th, an emotional Nixon addressed the White House staff. Then he boarded Marine One, again a flight designation, for what was then called Andrews Air Force Base. It was Nixon's wish that he leave Washington as president, so Air Force One departed for Nixon's home in California. Then at noon, when Nixon's resignation became effective, 2 things happened. Vice President Gerald Ford was sworn in as the new president, and in the skies above Missouri, the crew of the plane, no longer carrying the president, radioed air traffic control to change their flight designation from Air Force One to SAM 27,000. SAM, S-A-M, standing for Special Air Mission, and 27,000 being the tail number, the same designation used for any flight not carrying the president or VP. And in the words of the great Paul Harvey,
now you know the rest of the story.
Awesome. Thank you, Radio Roger, for that. Oh, now I'm hearing a lot of that fan noise. Or is that? Or it could be that boat that's going by on the lake. Okay. Well, that's one of the hazards of being on the end of a peninsula on a beautiful lake. Okay. So
that's
great.
a great story, though, wasn't it?
Yeah. And that's, I think, a lot of aviation enthusiasts know that, but there are probably a greater number of people that have no idea that, they associate Air Force One with an actual, airplane. And, not just the flight designation or designator. Really cool. I was when he
It
when he
is
was,
really cool.
when he was starting to set that up. I'm thinking, what happened? Why did they?
Yes, right.
What happened to Air Force One after it took off? But makes sense. When I was in,
now we know it's amazing the attention to detail that you can't have two people running the country at the same time. So there's got to be a point at which that handover occurs, and they even went to the trouble of making sure that they weren't using an inappropriate call sign. I think it's fantastic.
Mm-hmm. When I was flying in the U.S. Air Force, flying the C-141 Starlifter, one of our missions was presidential support missions. And if I'm not mistaken, I think they used to use a call sign or have us use a call sign with Sam in it, or it may have been something else. But I remember hearing that that call sign Sam before. But maybe somebody listening, maybe Super Fred Driver, probably. If you're still here, you may know what I'm talking about, what the call sign is for the presidential support missions. Anyway, great story, Radio Roger, and really appreciate all the work you do each and every week for us, doing the voiceover work for the show. And
thanks, Roger.
Yep, SAAM. Okay, Neil says, Jeff, surely you hear fans everywhere you go. No, I don't hear fans, but what I do hear is a very high-pitched whine everywhere I go. Tinnitus or tinnitus, yeah, whichever you prefer. Yeah, Sam is an unfortunate call sign for an aircraft. Why?
Surface to air missile.
Oh, surface air missile. Yeah, good point. Okay, let's move on to Larry, the geezer, and he says, we can't guarantee that your bags will have traveled with you on your flight today. And he goes, well, that's inconvenient. Talons, Douglas. By the way, it wasn't Glenn Taller. It was Larry Gregory that came up with the term Talons, Douglas. British Airways IT failure causes chaos at Heathrow. Let's see, the BA passengers faced long delays and frustration on the evening of June 25 after a technical issue with the airline's baggage allocation system at London Heathrow Airport. The IT failure left many travelers stranded and facing hours of waiting to collect their luggage. The busiest airport in the United Kingdom confirmed that the IT glitch, I love the fact that that's what the term they use for everything that goes wrong and has anything to do with technology. A glitch. It was a glitch. Most affected Terminal 5, primarily used by BA. Passengers arriving at Terminal 5 reported long queues at baggage claim and customer service desks. Social media erupted with complaints from frustrated travelers, some describing waiting hours and even witnessing passengers with children experiencing panic attacks due to the situation. Oh my.
Poor people.
Yeah. Yeah, a temporary technical fault outside of their control, and assured passengers it had been resolved. The airline confirmed they had deployed additional staff to expedite reuniting passengers with their luggage. Yeah, it happens. There seems like it's happening with more regularity, these IT issues.
Now, this was the company in the States that has been employed by numerous companies, particularly those that use Microsoft computers to protect them from attacks. Was it not?
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to remember the name of this company.
I don't. A crowd strike, I think.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
I'm not sure if this was related to that crowd strike issue or error. It could be, but I think that may have happened after. Liz, do you remember if this was the crowd strike thing that basically killed Delta Airlines and affected other airlines here in the U.S. like United and American, but they seem to recover pretty quickly. But Delta didn't. completely different IT issue then.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm surprised they didn't try and join the two together. Yeah, CrowdStrike was what, 20th of July?
Yeah, and this was in June, I think. We've had this.
Oh, okay.
Sorry,
The only thing I'm going to say is that this particular terminal at Heathrow is the most modern, and was built and basically gifted to British Airways, and they lord it over us all there. And from the day one, from the moment they kind of moved in and started operated, they had the most enormous problem handling baggage. Now, I don't know if it's the way the computer's set up or the baggage handling is set up, because I suspect it's all highly automated. But every time there's a computer problem at Terminal 5, it seems to affect people's baggage. Yeah, and it's got a bit of reputation, let me put it that way.
Well, you got to love modern technology, right?
At times.
It works at times.
I love it when it works.
Yeah.
Trouble is that when it works, you don't even notice it. And when it stops, you definitely notice it.
Yeah, for sure. So it's all or nothing, apparently.
Yeah, perhaps the other terminals, which probably use older systems, aren't quite so vulnerable, I don't know.
Probably not. I'm sorry, I got to wait for my noise assist to kick in. Welcome back, Liz.
Hi, Liz.
Okay. All right, thanks. Let's continue, shall we? With this feedback from Donald. There was a final report released on a fatal crash in Keene, New Hampshire. I thought it was an interesting story because it seems like everyone ignored telltale signs and should have made better decisions. And then he gives us a link to the ntsb.gov. Again, that was from Donald, and he, let's see. So this happened October 21st, 2022, in Keene, New Hampshire, and the aircraft involved was a Beech A-24, and the defining event was a loss of engine power, actually partial engine power loss. A mechanic reported that the maximum engine RPM attained during a post-maintenance full power engine run earlier on the day of the accident was between 2,300 and 2,375 RPM. He approved the airplane to return to service. A maximum continuous power setting of 2,650 to 2,700 RPM was required. Okay. Yeah. So it wasn't ready to return to service, but he did return it to service. The airplane had not flown in about 14 months. A post-maintenance check flight was not performed after the annual inspection. A flight instructor and a pilot under instruction were initiating a personal flight, which was the airplane's first flight after the annual inspection was completed. Coincidentally, it was also their first flight in the same airplane in which they experienced poor takeoff and climb performance during a flight nearly 14 months earlier. Witnesses reported that during the accident takeoff roll, the engine did not sound normal, with one reporting that it never sounded smooth the entire time the airplane was on the runway or while airborne. Excuse me. The airplane became airborne about 3,311 feet down the 6,201 foot runway.
About?
Yeah. Yeah. It's they don't have it down to the inch, only down to the foot.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. Which was about 2,087 feet and 5 inches more takeoff distance than the calculated value for the environmental conditions that day. After becoming airborne, the airplane leveled off at 25 feet, followed by a momentary power reduction and then a power advance. The flight continued in a shallow climb, climbing no higher than about 50 to 200 feet, when the flight was about 5,200 feet down the runway with about 1,000 feet of runway remaining. The flight continued off the airport, where the poor engine sound continued. While maintaining controlled flight, the airplane impacted a storage structure attached to an apartment building, resulting in a post-impact fire that nearly consumed the airplane. Post-accident investigation or examination of the engine revealed that none of the two-piece fuel injector nozzles had inserts or restrictors installed. The mechanic reported that the fuel injector nozzles were cleaned as part of the annual inspection. It's likely that at some point after removing the inserts or restrictors for cleaning, they were not reinstalled. He goes, what are these parts? Probably not important. Threw them away. Operational testing of the fuel injector nozzles without inserts or restrictors revealed extensive leakage. Operational testing of a 4-cylinder engine of the same manufacturer revealed that without inserts or restrictors installed in any cylinder, the engine produced about 7% less horsepower at full power when compared to a baseline run of the same engine with all inserts or restrictors installed. There were no other engine or engine system discrepancies noted. All right, I'm not going to read the whole thing here. But the probable cause... Yeah,
I think we got the gist of it.
Yeah, it was the mechanic didn't really do a great, thorough job. Then NTSB determines the probable cause to be improper maintenance of the fuel injector nozzles and the pilot's failure to abort the takeoff during the takeoff roll. I was thinking that same, when I was reading that first part, I'm thinking, seems like there was a lot of room to just put the airplane back down on the ground.
Yeah, well, it sounds like they almost tried when they reduced power, but then they changed their minds and put it back on again.
Yeah, but you're right. That's probably what happened, the change in power. Yeah, that's a little concerning.
Yeah.
I would imagine, does it say here anything about whether the mechanic is still being allowed to exercise his I don't know.
No, I
certified.
didn't see anything. But I'm also curious to know whether this would involve a criminal prosecution. Is that possible?
I'm not sure if a criminal prosecution would be something that could be a factor here, but I think definitely a civil lawsuit probably could be filed against the mechanic.
It's just that it seems to me that it was fairly cut and dried, that there was a limit there and there were parts missing, and the guy signed the airplane off as fit to fly, and 2 people died as not necessarily as a result, because I think, yes, they could have stopped the takeoff at an appropriate moment, even when they got airborne. There were plenty of runway ahead of them to probably land again, or at least to put it back down and survive the landing. So I guess not 100% sits on this man's shoulders, or this woman's, whichever. But still very disappointing. I wish Nick, he would probably be very hard-nosed about this, I suspect,
right.
And because after all, your job is that when you're a mechanic and you're certifying aircraft as fit to fly, and they don't, it's kind of a direct implication is that you haven't done your job properly, and as a result, people have died. It must be awful for him.
You would think, yeah. Unless he has no feelings whatsoever.
Wow.
Must feel horrible.
Yeah. Yes.
All right. I think we should move on because that's just depressing me. Robert, once living near the Big Chicken in Marietta, Georgia, now living in Tucker, the place where I was married. Let's see, sharing this that popped up on my feed. And here's the quotation from the article. After being parked and apparently forgotten for years at King Hussein International Airport near the shores of the Red Sea, the plane was sunk into Jordan's Gulf of Aqaba. Is that right? Aqaba? With the aim of encouraging dive tourism and coral growth, according to Jordan news agency Petra. And I have something that I can play if you'll put my keynote on stage. Oh, there we go. A Lockheed L-1011 TriStar wreck. Now it makes it seem like the TriStar crashed into the water, but they purposely took it there and had it sunk for an artificial reef. Looks like a nice place for the fishies to swim.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
That was cool. Thanks, Robert.
Do you get a bit sad when you see your old aircraft sitting beneath the ocean?
No, not really.
No.
It brings back memories of flying that wonderful machine, but I can't fly it now.
What,
so
under the sea.
Under the sea, under the sea. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
I think it's pretty neat actually for the fishies.
Well, I think it's a nice use for an airframe rather than a number have been deliberately put at the ocean floor to encourage coral growth and to provide some entertainment for divers. Because after all, some of these places are a bit barren, and there's not much down there to see. But coming across a damn great big airline, it must be quite good fun.
Yeah, looks like be a great place to dive. And the word that I should have used, the verb scuttled. I said sunk, but scuttled. I like that one. Hey, what's the scuttlebutt on that L1011? All right.
Excellent.
Moving on. This from Jim. Miami on Lufthansa, Boeing versus Airbus. Some time ago, you guys played audio feedback from me about a planned trip to Miami from the UK. My friend Scott and I, both av geeks, wanted to travel on something other than your usual 777, 787, or Airbus 330, 350, all of which will likely be around for a while yet. Having traveled since I was a kid on planes such as the Bach 111, the BAE 146, and even a Pan Am Express Dash 7, go Canada! I really do have the bug for searching out less run-of-the-mill aircraft to travel on. We elected to fly from London Heathrow to Frankfurt and connect with a Lufthansa Boeing 747-8, the latest in the 747 series, latest and last, I guess, and return from Miami to Munich on an Airbus A340-600. That airplane sounds familiar to me. During both flights,
nice airplane.
I got to thinking about Miami Rick versus Captain Nick, as both aircraft have featured largely in their careers. Being from the UK/Europe, my personal preference is Airbus, but I have to say that the Queen was a beautifully serene aircraft to travel on. It's a pity that the 747-8 did not sell better. The Airbus, in contrast, did feel, from a passenger's point of view, a generation older, despite the 10-year difference in service introduction. We were lucky enough to be flying in business class on both sectors. The Airbus seemed to be noticeably louder than the 747. I would imagine that might have something to do with where they were seated. Yeah, I forgot to walk back on the A340 to experience the downstairs restrooms. A novel feature of the type, but did go upstairs in the 747 to have a look at the hump in the business class. We didn't choose seats up there as it looked like sitting in a narrow-body aircraft and looked a little more cramped. It is cramped up there on that hump, and also the cockpit. A lot of people are pretty amazed how kind of squished you are up there in that 747 cockpit.
Yep.
I'd like to ask Rick and Nick for their thoughts on both types. What you're just going to have to do with Captain Nick's analysis.
Yeah, I can tell you what Rick would say. Don't worry.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, and I can play Rick. And if either have flown a self-loading cargo on the opposition. Next up, long haul for me, is the Airbus A350, which I know Nick is also a fan of. Clear skies, all, and loving Jeff's travel sojourns in the road vessel, Jim Fulton. And he said, I tried to do this on SpeakPipe, but it's nearly 3 minutes long. Happy to redo on SpeakPipe. You can glue it to the... Yeah, we can always put those things together, Jim. Or you could just use your phone or whatever recording device and just attach it to email and send it in, because we'd love to hear your voice. So, Captain Nick, so what about this? I thought it was I was scratching my head when he said he thought the A340 was noisier.
Yeah, that had me scratching my head too. So, the 747 is traditionally quite a noisy airplane, particularly around the front end and if you're in the upper deck, because that extra curve of the fuselage extension that gives you the double deck in that area accelerates the air, particularly over the cockpit, until you start getting shock waves building, which create a lot more noise than on a nice, smooth and aerodynamic fuselage like the 340. So the only thing I can think is the one you came across, where you're sitting. If you're sitting just behind the wing, those engines are pretty loud. They've got big old Trent 500s on the 340-600. And when the boys put the power on, you really notice the difference in sound level. If you're sitting at the front, it's whisper quiet. So I don't understand. In the flight deck, we never used the intercom. We balanced little headsets over one ear just to hear the radio, but we talked like we were in our living room amongst each other on the flight deck. So don't know about that. So I can only assume it was engine noise if you were sitting down the back third of the airplane. I actually love the look of the 747-8. I thought it was a great looking airplane. I was never a fan of just continually updating old-fashioned technology. So don't forget the basic system of the basic airplane of the 747 is unchanged, even on the Dash 8. They might have put new wing style on it to give it a bit better fuel consumption, but the systems are basically the same as the first 747. The grandfather rights, so they don't have to pay so much money to recertify it as a new type, and that's always been my problem with, say, the 737 that has been upgraded so many times. The aircraft barely resembles the initial one, but they still don't have a lot of the compulsory safety features and systems that are required on aircraft that were developed after. And, that's just a bold fact. Doesn't matter. I still love the 747. I always enjoyed flying in it. It had lots of room, and particularly in something like the Dash 8, which would be a lovely modern cabin, lots of space to move around. And the 340 was good. It was roomier than the 330, which I always thought was a little cramped. Never have particularly liked the 330. But the 350 is a beautiful airplane. It really is quiet. And anyone who tries to say otherwise needs hearing aids. I think I don't think there's any real conflict. They're two different airplanes built by two different companies, and they give you a choice if you want a choice. Most people don't actually, unlike you, most people just go for the bottom dollar
really don't.
Price. Yes,
Right.
They really don't care what they're flying on. And if it's 747, they think, oh, that's a nice bonus. There you go.
Can I play Rick? Miami Rick?
Yeah, please do. Please be Rick.
Okay. Yeah, well, that those Airbuses, they suck. That's all I have to say about that.
Yeah.
I've never, tell me what this, he was mentioning something about he didn't take the time to go to the novel feature, which is downstairs bathrooms.
Well, I'd never even heard of that. It certainly wasn't a standard feature.
I was thinking, wait a minute,
600. But I'm
thinking, was he is he referring to a 380? Was he on a 380?
I don't think so, but I mean, I don't see a problem with putting your toilets in the cargo hold if you want to. I mean, it would cost some money to pipe it all down there. So I'd never heard. I don't know which airline would have required that, or what logic they had to do that, since it would have cost them extra money to develop a system to do that and made the airplane more expensive.
Oh.
All right. So they banged some toilets in the cargo hold, basically, because that's what's underneath the passenger area on a 340-600 just for Lufthansa. Well, that's remarkable. I didn't know that. You learn something new every day, don't you?
Yeah, because I was thinking to myself, I don't recall Captain Nick ever mentioning, the downstairs bathrooms. Something. Now, I flew an airplane that did have downstairs bathrooms, the L-1011, and not all models did. Which article are you talking about? Oh, okay. Gotcha. Okay, Liz just sent an article regarding Lufthansa's. Let's see. Where is that?
They're under
No, I haven't seen it yet, but that's okay. We'll put a link to that article in our show notes, and you can read about that unique feature on Lufthansa's implementation of the A340-600. Cargo hold bathrooms. Okay, interesting. All right, cool. Well, thanks for giving us an update on your journey and the two types that you hadn't flown before. And I'm sorry that we were kind of hoping and expecting that Rick would also join us today, but he had some issues with mechanical issues with his jet. That kept him, I think, where was he? In Anchorage? Okay.
That was a 747-8, was it, that broke?
Oh, maybe it was Shanghai. What did you say, Nick? I'm sorry. So
was that a 747-8?
To be funny because you were laughing.
Broke?
I think it probably was. It could have been a 400. I know he flies a couple different versions of it, but yeah, maybe it was a -8. Anyway, let's continue on with. Well, how are you feeling, Captain Nick?
Oh,
keep pressing on?
Not for too long, because why don't we just do a couple more and split it in half? Just do enough.
Okay.
2 3/4.
So
would
which ones would you think would be? Well, let's make sure that we do. Why don't we do this? Why don't we do? I'm thinking 8. Oh, okay. Let's do number 8 and then maybe 10. That video. Okay. All right. Yeah, we're going to continue with this from Texas and LaShock. On this day is the subject of his feedback. Greetings, Captain Jeff and APG crew. In this image, are you showing the image? There we go. There's the image to which he is referring. You see a Cessna 172 Sierra, serial number 172 Sierra 9021, manufactured in 2001, and currently owned by Flores Flight Services. What's significant about this plane? Well, nothing really, except that on June 8th at approximately 12:40, this aircraft took off from Midland Air Park, MDD, with yours truly at the controls. Okay, I didn't perform the takeoff or the landing, but I was in control for the majority of our time in the air.
And that's what counts.
It was a little different than I was expecting. Yeah, he said it was a little different than I was expecting. The air was rather choppy, so we got bounced around a bit. In fact, right after we lifted off, there was a moment where I thought we were going to fall right down. But we got up to altitude, and then I was allowed to cruise around. Another thing that was surprising was when I made my first radio call. I thought I'd be nervous, but it seemed more like making a business call, just direct and to the point. Yep. The instructor was impressed, or at least complimentary, even though I felt like I was fighting the thing a few times and seemed surprised that I'd never done this before, not even much sim flying. So that was done, but now the question is, what now? I'm left weighing options on how to continue, or even if I should. About halfway through the flight, I started to get airsick, which may have come about because I was too focused on the instrument panel. Yeah, that usually will do it, because you got to look outside, especially when it's VFR. But I have noticed I seem to be more prone to that in recent years. The last couple of times I rode Star Tours and the Millennium Falcon ride, I got a bit sick, and I never used to. Strangely enough, roller coasters don't seem to induce it, so maybe it has something to do with being locked into a box that's being bounced around as opposed to being in the open air. If this persists, it might be an obstacle. I've had a short list of reasons why I've wanted to do this. What do you think? Number one, I've always liked airplanes. Even when I was sitting in my car seat, I liked to point out planes when I saw them. Sometimes they were so far away, my parents had to strain their eyes to see them. Two, money. I know they say this shouldn't be a reason, but this would be a considerable investment, and I would want to get something out of it at some point. Also, it seems like it might be a bit more of a reliable income. I guess he means like flying for a living, barring another 9/11 or COVID or manufacturer's issues, et cetera, than what I currently do, which is dependent on how many installs I perform and how far I drive. It seems like there's this sense of community among pilots that I find myself wishing to be a part of. I've been something of a loner, and in my current environment, there aren't many others with an interest in aviation. Number four, of all the things I've accomplished in my life, Eagle Scout, graduation, a mission, all valuable things that I learned a lot from, and I'm glad I did them, they were also things that were expected of me. This would be something I pursue of my own volition. Five, lately I found I'm feeling restless, like I need a change in direction, something to focus on and give that direction. So there you have it. If you have any advice, suggestions, resources I might check out, or opportunities I might look into, I would love to hear them. This is the Texas Anla Shock signing off. Okay. Do either of you, Liz or Captain Nick, have any idea how old Texas Anla Shock is? I don't
No,
either.
I'm afraid not. Although I don't really think it matters that much unless, of course, he's in his 50s or 60s. That probably is getting a bit long in the tooth and if you want to start another career. But I think we've had guys who, in their 40s achieve it, and it's worked for them. Really going at the whole hog and changing a career completely requires a great deal of drive, really enormous amounts of drive, and you have to be absolutely convinced. I'm not sure from the tone of Texas Anla Shock's letters that he it's anything more than a bit restless, as he puts it, and something to give him direction. I would start off by getting your private pilot certificate, just sort of like dipping your toe in the pond and see whether you're enjoying it and whether you can see your way towards making this a new occupation. I'm not trying to put a downer on your ambitions. I think it's a great idea, but I want you to be absolutely certain in your own mind if you're going to change your life completely and invest a considerable amount of money in what you're going to attempt, then I want you to be absolutely certain that it is something you definitely, really, it's a life-changing thing that you want to achieve. I don't know. What do you reckon?
Yeah, well, I think that there is some kind of important information that we need to know a little bit more about you, as far as, and you're right, Nick, it doesn't matter as much as it used to as far as your age at the time that you decide to set off and change careers. And but in this case, knowing that it's going to take some time and it's going to take, some money, and if those two things aren't major factors for you, then that and the age I don't think is a huge thing, unless, as Captain Nick just said, you're in your like late 50s and early 60s when you're not going to really be able to exercise or perform your new career for very long. So we're assuming, and then the other thing is, your family situation. I gather, just based on your feedback there, that you're a single person and aren't married or have a partner or a family and that kind of thing, because that's also another major thing that you have to consider when you're making any kind of career change, but especially becoming a professional pilot, because it's a demanding thing. You're away from your family quite a bit, and it's sometimes a little bit hard to manage. And as much as I like to say, that especially early on in my career, I thought that being away from home was kind of a good thing for my familial relationships. But in hindsight, I'm thinking maybe I was a little, I didn't really, look at it as critically as I should have, and it may not have been a great idea for me, but um, that's neither here nor there. Super Fred Driver has some advice. He said he should take a listen to Ready for Pushback. Nick Fialka has broken this down and given practical steps for folks changing careers. He's a Spitfire elite guy who specializes in getting folks hired. Interesting.
What is a Spitfire elite guy?
Well, I don't know. I'm not sure. So, Super Fred, what's a Spitfire elite guy? Let us know. But yeah, definitely listen for ready. I was thinking ready for. I was thinking Ready for Takeoff, but Ready for Pushback.
Yeah.
I don't think I've listened to that.
Neither have I. But I mean, doesn't mean to say
that does airline prep.
Not good.
Oh. Yeah. Oh, okay. Nick Fialka is a Delta captain, and I guess the Spitfire Elite is a company that does airline prep. Okay, great podcast. All right, yet another one to put on my list.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm always a little bit, I wouldn't say suspicious, but I think there's lots of ways to spend your money if you want to become an airline pilot. But unless you're actually directly spending your money on a path that will get you your ATPL or your commercial pilot's license, whatever, I don't know about doing courses on the side that might help you in a career. If you've got the qualifications and you're a stand-up guy with the ability to talk to the sort of people that are going to hire you sensibly, and you're going to put your case across that you'll be an asset to their company. I'm not quite sure if you need training before you even make the decision about whether you want to become an airline pilot and you want to start training. So, I see all these courses for potential cabin crew. You go and do a course and you spend money doing imaginary cabin crew training. And then, of course, when you've actually been accepted by an airline, they're going to give you something completely different. And I'm going, well, what was the point of that? Do you really think it prepared you for this new job when they're going to give you all the training you need? So I'm not too sure if that's an absolutely necessary step. But then again, I don't know a lot about this guy and this course, so perhaps I'm talking out of my backside.
I think you could color Nick skeptical on this partially.
Well, a little bit, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Liz. Say again. Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, if you were here, Liz, you would know that we did.
You had to put Poppy out. What, she caught fire?
Excuse. So she does. Liz, I think Poppy is like peeing almost constantly because Liz is always using that as an excuse. But she doesn't. She gets so tired of listening to us just drone on and on.
Yeah,
I gotta let Poppy
I can't blame her in that case. Yeah, I wouldn't want that job.
Well, you really can't. It was very uncomfortable for her when we recorded the last show, because I was there and I could see everything that was happening there, and she really didn't. You noticed that she didn't really leave that many times when I was sitting at the table with her, because I could see what was happening there. You know.
All right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Anyway, let's see, number 10, and then we're gonna wrap it up. But we do have some really great pieces of feedback that we're gonna carry over to our next show from Tom Seagraves and Stefan and a few others that I can't see the names of right now, but those are good folks too.
Oh, I
Yeah,
can't wait
Richard
to do
Nash
Stefan's
and
number
here,
14. But there you go.
Ben and Dennis and Jonathan. Oh, no, Jonathan, we're doing right now. Okay. This is from Jonathan sharing a little bit of feedback. I've been meaning to write for the past few months, but I couldn't find the time. A new story this week, however, prompted me to get on the stick and write this email and edit together the enclosed video, which was the real holdup. So what's the story and what's the feedback? Well, as a journalist, hold your comments. I'm always going to start with the news. On Friday, July 12th, a DHC-2 turbine beaver made an emergency landing at the toe of a glacier in Denali National Park, or Denali. I've never heard of that term before, the toe of a glacier. I guess that's the part that's like the end of it at the bottom and that's like melting. Would that be right? Okay. No injuries were reported, and the NTSB is investigating. Details are limited, but initial reports were that the plane reported some sort of power failure. And the feedback? Well, the feedback is I just rode on this plane, or at least one of a small handful just like it, owned by the K2 Aviation outfit. My family took a trip to Alaska at the end of May and flew out of Talkeetna up to Denali, the tallest peak in North America. What, did I say that wrong, Liz? Say it again? Oh, okay. Up to Denali, the tallest peak in North America. The pilot of our Beaver was one of the company's full-time, year-round pilots, and as part of our pre-flight briefing, he told us all about the equipment the plane carries in the event of an emergency landing like this one. So I'm not surprised to hear everyone walked away uninjured. And it certainly wouldn't deter me from doing a ride like this in the future. Having a chance to land on a mountain glacier and stand on top of almost a mile of compacted snow and ice and watch other planes do the same while my kids threw snowballs at me was a memory of a lifetime. And he said, take a look at the attached video and you'll see why taking one of these little single-engine planes up, around, over, and onto Alaska's Brooks Range and Denali is definitely something for any AvGeek to put on their bucket list. And again, this is Jonathan in Minneapolis, and he says, P.S. In the video, you'll see a mix of beavers and otters as K2 flies both, and when we were up on the glacier. Okay, so he did put a link to the news article, the NTSB to examine engine after emergency landing of a flight scene plane in Denali National Park. But the important thing that we need to do is, of course, play the video that Jonathan sent in to us, and that's what we're going to do right now. Are we ready, Liz? Okay, I'm sorry, because I don't have enough screen space to see what you have up. So, okay, here we go. So we're looking at a beautiful view of Denali, I think. Highest mountain peak in North America.
That engine sounds a bit ropey.
Yeah, it does. Bail out. It's coming in for a landing. Actually, they've just landed. They're rolling out on the glacier.
I think it's skipping a bit where I am, Jeff. So I'm.
Oh, is it?
It's not very smooth here.
Sorry.
That's not your fault.
Okay.
But,
well.
Whoa! Excellent.
Now, is it smooth now?
No, it's still jumping.
Okay. Well, we'll have a link to this video in our show notes, and you can watch it on your machine without all the skips and jumps. Although it's funny because when you were telling me it was... Yeah. Well, and I think the video is still playing, actually.
Yeah, I'm afraid your bandwidth might have
It's all
shrunk a
falling
bit
apart.
because you've gone a bit fuzzy on us.
This is God's way of telling me that we should have stopped at 2.5 hours.
Exactly. It's very good.
I should have known because the latency was increasing because I'd say something and then you guys would take 3, 4, or 5 seconds before you'd say something or laugh or something like that. I'm thinking, that's not good. Should I try to switch to my phone hotspot? That's really the only other option I have. Let's see. Why is it not seeing my phone? Can you guys hear me at all?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, your audio is not too bad. It's,
okay.
It's just the video that is... we're just waiting for you to...
Thinking, wow, they're just not even responding. Okay.
No, we're here. We're just letting you ramble on.
Okay. Thanks. And let me think that nobody can hear me.
Yeah.
Rambling man, why don't you settle down? I am a rambling man in my road vessel.
You are indeed, yeah.
Okay. Oh, there's finally see my hotspot. It took forever to show up in the list. Okay, it says that I'm on my hotspot now. Yeah. I'm not sure her husband would appreciate it. Are we still connected? Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're still there, but nothing much has changed, I'm afraid.
Is it still bad? Oh,
well, the video certainly is. The audio is
T-Mobile.
Still okay-ish.
Okay, well, let me do this then. Okay. I've stopped my cam, so yeah, you look great, Nick. So it's just going to be you. Yeah. You can still hear me though, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So the latency is really, really bad. It takes like 3 seconds before you guys respond to me. Yeah, you're very funny. In fact, let's do this. Nick, you have the wrap up.
I have the com. Okay, sir. If you want to find out more about the show, just go to our website. And I have to say, it's an absolutely brilliant website. The latest technology. It's got that magic security system, so you don't have to worry about us pinching any of your details. Not that you ever have to give us any. But so hunt us out on airlinepilotguide.com, and you'll find out all sorts of things about the show. You'll better see the podcast, Plain Tales, the library, and find out more about us as the presenters of the show. And it's a great avenue for everything APG orientated. If you're into the social media scene, then on Facebook.com you can find us at /Airline Pilot Guy, all one word. On X we're at APG Crew. Instagram is APG Crew, all one word. And YouTube, where of course you can find all this making of the sausage videos. We are again youtube.com /Airline Pilot Guy. So there's something for everybody there.
There is. And
of course,
who's in my bathroom? Well, let's hear.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I can hear. I'm not playing anything. I can hear the water running. Hey, hello.
I can't.
Can you tell us about Slack?
I can hear him throwing his underpants at the wall.
So now he's talking about Slack, and then we're gonna say, "Thanks a lot, Hillel."
You're a good man, Hillel.
And with that, we're going to go ahead and shut this down because everything is just crumbling down around me. And I'm going to wish you clear skies, unlimited visibility, and tailwinds. Take care and God bless.
Until next week, bye-bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
That like took Liz 10 seconds. That was amazing.
Sorry, I forgot. I hadn't joined.
I think
That's
she
my
was
fault.
muted.
No, I was. I forgot.
Right,
I hadn't
okay.
joined. I'm sorry. I forgot. I'm all discombobulated.
Oh, poor Liz.
I know.
Oh, no. That's because Jeff was being rude at you.
Jeff, can you turn your recorder off?
I don't know. He's a bit laggy.
Yeah, no problem. I never turned it on.
Right.
Got it.
Okay.
Let me switch back to my hotspot. I mean, the other one.
Cheers, everybody in the chat room.
Yes, thanks for
Vetland.
joining us.
Yeah, great to see you all. Cheers.
Oh, your video looks good
Brought
now,
him
Jeff.
You brought him for a crash landing. Yeah, I quite agree, Neil. Yeah, he kept it airborne as long as he could.
Yeah.
He was
Okay,
in ground effect for the last 10 minutes.
I'm going to end the stream. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Yeah, bye,
Bye-bye.
bye, everybody.
Bye-bye. Thanks for coming.